Welcome to the Stygian Stilettos Gamer channel. This is StygianSis. Please like, share, and subscribe, and find me at twitter.com/StygianSis. Whoop, whoop. And funny enough, Eric is trending right now.
Probably because of us.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my god, the Golden Girls are are talking about Maiden today.
Yeah, we're gonna do the thing. We're gonna do the thing.
We're the Golden Girls.
Indeed.
Which one am I?
Sophia. Now, maybe Dorothy. Maybe Dorothy. It just depends. I tend to think of myself as Dorothy. Yes, you could be the slut, absolutely. And then, well, but Amy isn't a rose, but she's the nice one. So we'll say the nice side because
that's nice of you to say. But
yeah,
it's wrong.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the nice one.
Oh, not her. Well, some days I am. Some days, I got to tell
it. It depends on the day and how much caffeine I have in my system.
Absolutely.
I am an ogre without at least 2 cups of coffee in me.
I can't find this link. Can you send it to me? Because I'm obviously stupid.
You're not stupid, my love.
Yeah, hold
Okay.
on.
I'm gonna stop. I've turned on watch stream, but actually it's just freaking me out because it's like a few seconds behind what I'm doing. So it's
yeah, it's always gonna be unless you're looking at the. You have to be looking at my screen in order to see what.
Yeah, I'm not enjoying that.
All right. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started, ladies. So, of course, this is Stygian Stilettos Gamer, aka StygianSis. This is our Final Fantasy VII book club. I believe this is week 6, but I mean, don't hold me to that. We did exactly. We did move the schedule up a little bit. There was so much chatter about Maiden that I decided, let's go ahead and just talk about Maiden this week. And since it was just 21 pages, I figured it'd be a quick read, and it was definitely interesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce my guests. I'm gonna start with Amy, who has not been on the stream before. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Hi. And then we have.
The higher pitch, the more nervous I am.
We'll have you dig to the deep baritone soon.
Absolutely.
Very, very good. Okay.
And then we have Ria, of course, back with us. How are you today?
Conscious. That's as good as you get.
Yes, loving the cloudy, riding a chocobo. Beautiful. Always love staring at the girls as well.
It's like the jump scare for some people.
Absolutely. 2 birds, 1 stone,
Exactly.
or 3. And then, Monk, how are you doing over there?
Oh, I am here.
That is one way to put it. All right. Well, look, we already got some people trickling in. All right, cool. Commenters, if you could just let us know if you can hear everybody okay, that would be grateful. We would be grateful, sorry. It would be helpful. Hi, Diana. Oh, Steph's here. Whoop, whoop. All right, cool.
All right, good.
All right, now, so a little clicking on your side, Monk. It's a little loud over there.
Oh, sorry.
Don't know if you hiding a body over there or whatever's going on, but just.
If you are hiding a body, don't say nothing about it.
From my earlier kill, I'm just dumping the body in the river. I'll be back.
Okay, all right.
You're fertilizing the roses.
Well, see, that's an unfortunate joke to make in this particular.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I have to rework my job.
All right, so.
Oh my god. You guys are the worst. You guys are the worst.
Yeah. You're the one that said it, not me. Okay, don't blame me.
I wasn't thinking about that. I didn't realize it until I said it. I'm like, oh, maybe I.
He's like, maybe I should reword that. All right.
Maybe I should reword that.
All right, so what we're gonna do now? Okay, I'm messing with the levels a little bit. Yeah, if anybody's too loud or too not loud enough, again, anybody listening, if you could let us know, that would be great. So we're gonna jump right in. I might want to get my words together today.
Words. What are words?
And by the way, so Ria has her cloudy shirt on. I wore some floral for Aerith today. I like this. I pulled it out of the clothes hamper. It was clean.
It's super cute. So I actually really love it. And plus, I love it when you're in red.
So, yes, Mr. Darkstar said he's here for. I said here's for. Sorry, I'm laughing. Here for spice.
Here for the spice.
Here for the spice.
Oh,
there will be.
We're all a little spicy. You got to be specific. What kind of spice you looking for?
There will be a tiny bit nice, mostly spice. Mostly spice. But we might surprise you where the conversation goes. So first, I want to, because the canonicity of this Maiden Who Travels the Planet has been highly contested over the years. Which I suppose, considering how much of it contradicts OG the same. This is the Ultimania Omega that it's in. It contradicts entries in the Ultimania Omega about the same game. I mean, so I don't know, but nonetheless,
there were contradictions within itself that we're still a little iffy on within the work.
Like the Promised Land thing, it gave like two explanations for the. I mean, it was very confusing.
So like when the meteor was handed over.
Oh, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. But yeah, so I'm just gonna read this real quick. It says, on the creation of the Maiden Who Traveled the Planet. I keep saying travels the planet. I don't know which one is supposed to be perfectly honest. Every now and then, Yamashita tells a joke that for the life of me, I can never figure out what the punchline is supposed to be. I'm going to create an Omega for FF7. Then I'm going to ask Benny to write a short story for it starring Gareth. Oh, right. The Omega for 7. That's a great idea. Wait, what? After that, I thought to look away from him and asked him what he really wanted to talk about, and that he was giving me a heart attack again. But it turned out he wasn't kidding. If you had suggested that I should expand and adapt the story of Cloud and Sephiroth's battle within the world of the mind, that would have been fine. But Aerith? It's been 8 years since the game was released, and now I'm being asked to write an original interpretation of the story about this legendary heroine who died so tragically. But I can't just turn tail and run away, can I? After the book project started, I spent more than half a year working on the concept with a few other books in between while having nightmares. When I felt like my heart was about to break, I suddenly found a book by Kenji Miyazawa that encouraged me. Or perhaps it was Midori Gusoko? I'm sorry if I'm messing these names up. I finished the story under the most pressure I've ever felt, and I'm looking forward to your feedback. So he clearly says right there, original interpretation. Short story starring, Aerith. And it was just based on what I'm reading there, not exactly his, like writing it from Aerith's perspective seemed to be what threw him off, not just like the final battle and but anyway, I think it's clear that 8 years have passed by for poor Benny, because based on a couple things in here, like I said,
there were some things.
Yeah. So hey Lady Warrior, how you doing? Affection, nice to see you. Let's see, Adam Savage, hello.
Hi, Adam.
Hey, we know Adam. So I'm going to start off with a few positives that I wrote down. I want to start off on a high note.
Oh, great.
And then we start diving.
Yes, I'm going to start off on a high note. I think the writing style was nice. I don't know if you call it a compliment. I think it's a compliment. I thought the writing style was pretty cool. I mean, now there's translation involved and stuff like that, but of course we understand that. Yeah. But I thought the opener was...
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece of prose. It was really beautifully written.
Yeah, beautifully written. And a nice start. He lingers a bit on certain areas, but and obviously it's not perfect with, style of writing versus content. Two different things. But yeah, I did want to say that this is not us attacking his writing per se, and it's not even us attacking him per se. It's just like when we're talking about canonicity and what makes sense with the story that we've been given, particularly, and again, he's working with just OG, just whatever information he was given. We don't know how long it had been since he played OG, if he ever played OG. We have no idea about any of this information. So I'm trying to give Benny the benefit of all those doubts, so I don't want anybody to take it personally against him, our critiques of this, because it really has to do with the content and the perception of this story with the fandom, and whether or not the perception meets the reality when you actually read this. And I think a lot of people who stand this might be a little shocked if they actually went in and read it and be like, why am I claiming that this is a clear tale? So, yeah. And then, well, this is a positive for us. It actually proves a lot of what Cloudies have been saying for years. And again, I'm shocked that the people who go on and on about this being canon. You can if you want to, but I don't think it's going to help you. But we're going to dive in. So
yeah, we're getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah. So let me just give the overall. It starts off with basically describing Aerith's death. It gets into some pretty flowery language about how she feels. Now, this is important to say. This whole thing is from Aerith's point of view. She only has the information in her head, okay? So that is another thing to remember when reading this. It's not like we have an omniscient presence. This isn't like a third-party omniscient. It's written in third person, but it's only from Aerith's point of view.
Yeah, third person limited, I think it was called. Yeah,
so this is what she is believing Cloud is going through certain moments, and what the other people are thinking, blah blah blah. You know, she can only tell you her experiences in the moment. So it starts off with that. Then it basically goes through this series. She realizes she hasn't disappeared yet. She's curious why. She starts to think maybe my time isn't done yet. Now she's yet to realize that Cloud has helped Sephiroth get the black materia and all of that. So she's starting to wonder what her purpose is. She's thinking about, I wish I could help Cloud through his moment of grief and whatever. And then, sorry, I'm trying to give a straight face. And then,
straight face.
and then she goes through this series of meeting different people who are dead. She first meets with the Avalanche group. Then she meets with Dine, I believe. Then it is President Shinra. And then it starts going into, and last it ends up with Zack, who she then, by this time, she's trying to figure out a way to help Cloud because he's in the live stream now. And she's calling and calling for him, and she realizes that she can't reach him. And as she's thinking about, did she ever know the real Cloud and blah, 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 Zack is manifested, and he comes in and helps her figure out a way to, and then she entrusts Tifa to be the one that saves Cloud, and it goes from there. So that's the summation of the 21 minutes.
That's a very, very good summation of...
Yeah. Very kind and level. So not gonna stay like that. Just a warning.
No, it's not. We're gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Very honest.
So as best as we can, ladies, to try to go in some type of order, let's do that. So what your first, the first things that you come across where, okay, so we know that, most of this is just about describing her death, as we said. It says.
See the thing where she was sinking in the water, right? That it always brings to mind that bit where I'm thinking about how he's standing. And it's like waist height, but she's sinking so far, and I'm like, is he standing at the edge?
I've always
how does this?
Yeah, I've always considered it an edge.
I've always had a problem with that because the thing is, dead bodies don't sink; they float.
I know. So
all right. Let's not go into a scientific.
It was the weight of all her equipment that was, and all the equipment she forgot to unequip.
Oh yeah.
It was all her princess guard and all her armlets and stuff that you forgot to unequip before your final battle, and she jumped like a rock.
And taking all the shit with her. I could have sold
Sedorna said, it's her POV. So yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was Zayana. And then Sedorna said, all I gotta say is Tifa's clearly only platonic friends with Cloud. Like she's a pure virgin Madonna. That the incels tell me. That's hilarious. And then old man Sakaki said Amy is a big fan of the book. I've heard. Yeah, I do agree. I think she is.
Yes.
Getting trolled from the comment section on your first appearance. So
I know, right? You see, it's because you got the Rose character when we were. No, wait. Yeah, when we were deciding which Golden Girl we were.
All right, so one thing, like, he spent a little too much time on describing her body floating to the end. I was like, okay, all right, we get it.
Yeah, that's where it started to lose me, because even though it's
the first page.
It's beautifully written, but it's just like, but after a point, it was just like, okay, it's very pretty, but let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's dead, she's floating. May she rest in peace.
Yeah. And then, so the first thing that struck me, like if we're just talking about the opening, it says someone staring down at her. It was the face of a man whose heart is shattered to pieces. Now, this is a phrase I think he uses more than once, and the context is entirely different. It doesn't make any sense to me, but we'll get into that later.
Agreed. But in all honesty, when it got to that point, there was even a statement made that, and Aerith was happy to hear that Cloud.
Trust me, we'll get into that. Trust me, we'll get into that.
Until that point, it's just very much a da-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-dun. It's like an almost like a song on repeat. Like he's playing the same notes on repeat, and it becomes a wheel, and to a point where it's just you start losing yourself, and you have to reread it, and it's just like, okay, well, I have to re-victimize myself with her death just so I can get through it.
Yeah.
I don't want to re-victimize myself.
Yeah, and I see what you're talking about, because I didn't know if that was earlier or later, but
that's in the first bit.
That is in the beginning. So the face of a man barely holding himself together amid his sorrow at losing her in his anger and hatred for the one who took her away. It was the face of Cloud. Okay, so first let me say why this contradicts what we see. He does have a moment, he says the eyes are burning or whatever stuff. She'll never smile again. Blah. Yeah, obviously this is some prose from Cloud. I think largely I would be shocked if we actually get anything like that monologue from Cloud.
I will pay them to take that shit out. I will pay them. It was the most awkward, sentences I've ever experienced in my life. And you're reading it and you're like, Cloud, I know you're not a poet, but this is but for you.
Yeah. Because I think what's going on is they have to verbalize this stuff, because you can't see it. Whereas now, when you see chapter 9 and she's walking away, they could put the tear and then they reference it in the Ultimania to let you know, like, we're referencing the eyes burning, the fingertips thing.
Yeah.
So I think they don't need to go so
deep into it,
so cringy with it.
But also, it kind of brings to mind that this is kind of the source of where this idea that when she passes, that's when Cloud starts to break. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, within the context of the game itself, that's not the point.
No,
where he starts breaking.
No,
throughout the entire game up until this point, he's already fracturing. But that's not the point that he breaks.
No, he breaks
we
in
know
order
now
to crater.
where it came from.
Yeah,
this isn't like back up in Maiden, because he mentions this later, and he clearly sees that this was the moment, and this is clearly his own bias, I guess, or whatever it is, that this is the moment. So that's why he's written it, because he saw this is the moment. But like, that's not what happened.
But it's a little it's a little overwritten by the whole snowboarding 10 minutes later, and he's
I'm like,
hey, roll on the floor. And he's turned to his sights completely on Tifa. He's clinging to Tifa. Your opinion, the only one that matters. All that stuff that he says to Tifa. You've been so good to me. I'm sorry to you, especially Tifa. Doesn't, when he thinks he's not a real person anymore, does he even mention Aerith? I mean, like, there's so much that doesn't make sense with the idea that he and Monk is our resident expert right now, because she literally just played through this. So Monk,
I literally just played through this just a few days ago. I mean, of course I've played this game a million times, but
Aerith
is not mentioned by name until after Cloud is like recovered. She's mentioned like right after her death, when you're still in the Forgotten City, and that is the last place she is mentioned until after Cloud is recovered, and you go back to Cosmo Canyon and you talk to Bugenhagen after you get all the huge materia and stuff. Aerith is not mentioned again until that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But Cloud, even though he's clearly shaken up by her death, I'm not going to be one of those Cloudies that goes, her death doesn't have any effect on him, bro. No. We're not saying that.
Really upset.
What we are saying is that that is not what caused him to break. What caused him, he still, believed in himself because of Tifa. Like, Tifa was, he obviously was experiencing some doubts and stuff, but if you listen to his dialogue that he has with Sephiroth, when Sephiroth is showing him, the Nibelheim incident, Cloud is not even allowing Sephiroth to affect him. He says, when Tifa's the one being freaking out and stuff, and Cloud turns to her and he says, "I'm not even paying attention to him. Don't even bother. Don't calm down, Tifa. Everything is fine. I'm not worried about him. You told me long time no see. Those words will always support me." So right now, all of his focus is on Tifa because she is his rock, and as long as he has her, he's able to hang on. But when she starts doubting him, that's when he falls apart. And that's the part that this book completely glosses over. Conveniently.
Absolutely. So when we say it's not just a matter of, so we read to you Benny Matsuyama saying it's an original interpretation, but it's not just that. You could just read Maiden and see it clearly contradicts major parts of the story. As you mentioned, he mentions, because like they also say that he says about Sephiroth, he mentions Aerith, what he did to her, I'll never forgive him. Well, he has a whole monologue right before that about all the things that Sephiroth did to him.
Exactly. Killed his mother, killed his village, a whole battery of things with Sephiroth about.
And Cloud wait, no problem. One more thing is about like he says he has to settle the score with Sephiroth outside of Midgar. This is way before Aerith died. So it's not just about Aerith. It's about everything Sephiroth has taken from him. Including his friends like Zack and Aerith. Yeah. And at the time he doesn't remember Zack, so he doesn't bring Zack up.
All the beef.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
So this is exactly like one of my biggest problems with this kind of interpretation, is that it lowers Cloud into this very like one-dimensional kind of character. Like, the only reason he's going after the big bad guy is because he killed this one person. That's fine and everything, but Cloud is a much more complex character, and he has and it lowers his rivalry with Sephiroth down to a baseline level. Cloud's rivalry with Sephiroth is far more complex than this novel tries to paint it out to be, and what unfortunately a huge segment of the Final Fantasy VII fandom, they want to make it it's just Cloud getting revenge for killing Aerith. No, that is part of it. But as you have said, and as people who pay attention when they play this game, Cloud has had a rivalry with Sephiroth ever since the Nibelheim incident. That is the heart of all of the conflict. That is where everything began. That is where basically the journey for, we like to call them the Nibelheim Trinity, Sephiroth, Cloud, and Tifa, all began. You have Sephiroth's journey into becoming the villain that we now know him as. It started Cloud's, journey to take down Sephiroth. That's where it started, and that's where Tifa started her journey as well.
Yeah.
So the way people try to gloss over the Nibelheim incident, like, that was just an aside. No, Cloud lost his mother. He lost his hometown. That started his whole back and forth with Sephiroth there in the Nibelheim incident, and it frustrates me to no end to see how many people are just wanting to gloss over that and push it off to the side for really a subpar version of the story.
Yeah, because and what's funny is one thing they like to quote is some super old interview that is often twisted into what the meaning was, but they didn't want this typical story of, you killed my lover, and that's the one thing, like, you killed my lover, and so I'm going to exact revenge, blah blah blah.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Yeah.
That's actually Tifa's line. That's Tifa's line.
Exactly. She needs to have that line. Complete non sequitur, but she needs that line.
She does.
Yeah.
She needs that line.
Like Final Fantasy VII is not that story. It is not that typical. It's not even a romance story, but it's certainly not that type of typical. Oh, I lost my lover of 3 weeks, and so let me go exact revenge.
And the thing is, that's why one of them played Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII did Clarith, but better.
Which one? What? Which couple are you saying is Clarith? Oh, okay. Let me not get off topic. We'll have that conversation later. Yeah, we'll have that conversation later. Okay, but yes. Charles said, "I hate the way they have Aerith treat Zack after he tells her what happened to him." Yeah. I know. Yeah, we're getting into that later.
We're gonna get into that. Notepad. We getting into it.
We're gonna rip this one a new one.
I can't. And then Bobby said, "I can't forgive the Claudia erasure." Of course, Claudia Stan over here. Aerith dying is literally one of the many bumps of the story. Yes, exactly. It's just one of the, like, for me, the only the turning point with Aerith's death is that shit really gets real. Like, oh shit, like somebody just died. This is serious.
Aerith's death signifies a moment that kind of snaps you out of it, because up to that point, basically all you were doing was introductions. After you leave Midgar, you're going around and you're gathering up all these new team members, and you're going through everyone's backstory.
You're having fun
and shit.
Yeah, you're having fun. You're doing the gold sauce. Oh, look, we're on dates and
you're kind of goofing around, even though you're on the pursuit. You're on the chase for Sephiroth. You're really kind of goofing around at that point of the story.
And
things
also
don't really start getting super heavy until you get to the Temple of the Ancients, and then that's when shit gets real. That's when Cloud really starts. You start seeing Cloud starting to fracture in the Temple of the Ancients when Sephiroth starts exerting his influence over Cloud at that moment, and you really start seeing Cloud kind of, and he's losing control of himself, and that's what that leads to, the moment where not only he beats the living shit out of Aerith, but he is reluctant to even go pursue her when she goes to the Forgotten City, because he has that back fear. Is like, what if I go crazy again? Sephiroth has this pull over me I didn't think that he had. He's able to control me to the point where I will just hand over the black materia. I don't want that to happen again. And he basically does what he does in Advent Children, and he shuts down. He's like, nope, I'm not going after the kids. I'm scared. I feel like a failure. And it takes Tifa and Barrett to get him to finally go after Aerith.
Yeah, Tifa is always the kick in the ass that he needs. Yeah, go ahead.
Tifa is always the kick in the ass that Cloud needs. Yeah. That's why he needs her.
including when he killed Sephiroth in the first place. I mean, he was pissed off about his mom stuff, but when he saw Tifa lying there, he was like, "Oh, hell to the no." He said, "No."
That also brings to mind another point, though, because for the player, yes, that is where shit gets real and where we are introduced to the actual stakes of the game. But it's kind of like, okay, well, we had in Cloud's past where he literally goes full on aggro because the girl that he loves and his mother were killed. And it's just like, it feels like, okay, so they're trying to take that away from this and put it on that. And it's just like, no, that's not how the story went. And that's not how the story is supposed to go. A 16-year-old is going to be blinded by emotion. There's no question about that. So yes, it is feasible to understand that as a 16-year-old, he is going to go berserk because the girl that he's in love with and his mother are killed. As far as he knows, Tifa's dying because she was on the verge of death. His mother is dead, probably roasting in her house. I mean, like,
and his best friend is just collapsed. Seemingly dying as well. Everything he has ever known has just broken. His hero, the guy he looked up to more than anything, has just done all this. His whole world is just fractured, and he just freaked out.
But then they're trying to. But then we have a certain subset of a subset of a subset, as I like to put it, that is just like, oh, this is how he reacts for Aerith's death, and it's just like, the player, felt her loss. We, the player, got to experience that, but that's not the thing that breaks Cloud, because he's already been through it, so he's kind of got a scar over that particular pain.
I feel like people forget that at this point, he is still not connected to his emotions properly.
Exactly.
He's still not connected.
Exactly.
When he was 16, he was he has some serious issues going on, but like Zach said, you know, I mean, like, you know, I've sensed some issues here, but he was connected, and when he responded as a normal human boy, guy. But at 21, he is in the soldier persona. He is not connected to himself. He doesn't know where he is. Yes, he responded at that moment when she died. He is not in the same position to react like that.
Exactly.
And this idea that he's going to go berserk and really angry and freak out.
Yeah.
And
honestly, that's kind of what.
Well, and here's the thing too. Yeah, it this also just goes to show you just how much the Nibelheim incident affected him too, because you know he, as we pointed out, he's a 16-year-old. He didn't even have what it took to become a member of Soldier. Sephiroth is there at the peak of his power, basically, and Cloud is so angry. I mean, he has no Mako enhancements at this point. Nothing. Just a 16-year-old boy who is just flew into a rage, and he was able to take down Sephiroth at the peak of his power. Like, that is why that scene is, like, so important, and that's why it frustrates the hell out of me when people try to gloss over it. It's like, no, this is Cloud's moment. Why would you take that from him? Why would you try to downplay that for some subpar, you know...
That's honestly one of the things that made it very hard to read.
Quote unquote
Romeo and Juliet nonsense. Yeah,
I'm putting the romance people want it to be.
You can't see me, but I'm doing the Dr. Evil quotation marks as I say romance.
I know. Yeah. We good. All right, so oh, we heard it. All right, so and then the other part here, and then we can continue forward is so. She says, thinking about Cloud was especially hard to bear. It didn't help that she'd taken a liking to him. At the start, she thought he resembled the first man she had feelings for. There was nothing about Cloud's face or voice or even his personality that matched the other man's. Yet, yet there were justices and quirks that for some strange reason reminded Aerith of him. Not that it mattered in the end. She'd come to like him far more than her first love. So... First off, okay, so as I go, like, the things I want to point out is how this either contradicts or corroborates parts of the story.
Yeah.
The first love thing.
Oh yeah, I've got a mouthful for this one.
I had some
we all do.
very specific swear words in mind for that one.
Mm-hmm. So we'll go in order. I'm sure everybody's gonna have something to say about this one. Every Ultimania that Xerath is mentioned in says that's her first love, first off. OG says that's her first love. And Maiden, which they claim is canon, also says that's her first love. And yet, just today on Twitter, I see people claiming that it wasn't or it was a platonic love, or blah, blah, blah. Why would she be putting some guy who was just a friend to her in the same category as Cloud? And why is she thinking of Zack every time she thinks of Cloud? I mean, the contradictions are just abound. I mean, Maiden is sitting there telling them the same thing that we tell them every day on Twitter. Yeah, that was her first love. Yes, she's reminded of Zack the Realm. Now, she's saying she isn't, but like, and I actually do kind of get what she's saying here, to be fair. It isn't like he's a one-to-one on Zack. It's not like he's a little puppet. He does have his own personality aside from Zack. But it's like she says, his quirks, it's his mannerisms. He's wearing his outfit, he's carrying his sword, like, and she clearly is reminded of him through
except the way you look at the way it's been put, it feels as if like, oh, so you're a good substitute. And she never gets the opportunity to meet Cloud as Cloud. And yes, there are some instances of his personality that still shine through, that are still core parts of his being. But it's still very much oh, you're just like Zack in X, Y, or Z, or the things that I found cute in Zack, I'm going to just like la-di-da. And it's just like, that's not a good look. And I'm just like, no. I mean, yes, that is a popular criticism that people have of Aerith as a character within the context of the story itself. Mm-hmm. That is a valid criticism with regards to the relationship itself. But the way that it's worded here, it feels just like, oh, I found a better copy. I found a better version. And it's like, no.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Like Zack 2.0. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, no.
Yeah, it makes no sense because later in the book she says she didn't even know, which I'm gonna trace back to that when we get to that portion of the book. But you know, they like to go on and on about this part, and I'm like, but even within the entire, as usual, when she's mentioning her feelings for Cloud, like the gold salsa date, 90% of the conversation is about comparing him to Zack. I mean, it's not. So I don't even see how this helps them, even though, like, yes, as a Xerath, I certainly would understand why this would piss me off, saying that he, but even within this own story, it's almost contradicted by stuff that happens later.
Exactly.
Amy and Monk, if y'all want to step in, whoever wants to go.
Yeah, I remember when I read this, I felt like anger, and then I thought that is such shite. I was just like, this is so annoying, especially when later on it's like, it is, like you said, it is contradicted. But this whole idea that she's like, yeah, that other guy, and there was just some things that were similar, and you're like, the gold saucer, she was talking about how, you know, there were things that were similar. She had already seen this. This makes it seem like she was just kind of like, oh, they were just kind of similar, like, you know, they said the same things sometimes, they had the same turns of phrase. The whole point was that he was taking so much from Zack that she saw it in him. She could see it. And this idea that it was just like this sort of fleeting sort of, oh yeah, he was just kind of similar, like, that just...
It doesn't even do OG era justice. I mean, it just makes her seem like it just makes her seem like a flake.
Horrible.
Yeah,
it does. It makes it like Lucretia. I will say Lucretia style. We're getting into that kind of.
Yeah. And I'll go on like full on rants if you let me with regards to Lucretia.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like,
yeah, we're trying to stay on topic. Yeah. But yeah, it make, I'm like, this part of Maiden is just like, I just died, for God's sakes, and this is what I'm thinking about is
it's like, not like I was murdered or no.
It makes her seem like a flake. It makes her seem like she doesn't take, she doesn't even take her own death seriously. It's just like
she's immediately just obsessing about the fact about Cloud. Like, she died.
I mean,
what's her first thought? It's not like, oh, I was trying to summon Holy. Oh, Sephiroth was trying to take over the world. Oh, you know, there was stuff happening at the Temple of the Ancients.
She didn't even notice.
I actually died. But it was just like...
She didn't even notice that Holy didn't actually cast. I mean, there are bigger fish to fry right now, Aaron. I mean, it's just like, what?
He's cute, but he's not that cute.
No.
I think I would focus a little bit more on the fact that I was fish kebabbed.
So we're gonna let Monk. This is gonna be great. Let's let Monk have her turn. Go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, just to kind of continue on what you guys were saying just earlier, that they make Aerith such a one-dimensional character here, and you know, and here's the thing: is that even though I despise this book, its content. In the back of my mind, I have to keep reminding myself, Benny Matsuyama does not have the background knowledge of these characters and stuff, because I you know, of course, you know, we're of course heavily criticizing his depiction of Zack and everything, rightfully so. I will add, rightfully so. But you know, I have to keep reminding myself that he didn't really have a whole lot to go off of, so he's filling in a lot of the blanks, and that's why this cannot be used as canon, because he is basically pulling stuff out of thin air in order to try and make sense of the story, where there's holes in the plot at this point, or where there's spaces that have not been filled with official lore. So he's trying to fill in all these spots, but unfortunately, his depiction of Aerith is extremely one-dimensional, and like you said, it even does a disservice to OG Aerith, because towards the end of Aerith's journey in OG, specifically starting in Cosmo Canyon, Aerith is starting to kind of almost decouple herself a little bit from chasing Cloud down as much. I mean, of course, she still flirts with him and stuff, and, you know, if you do take the Aerith route, you still get her on the gold saucer and stuff, but honestly, Aerith becomes far more focused on her duties as a Cetra once you get to Cosmo Canyon. It's almost like a wake-up call for her. You know, she's like, she's there and she's like, oh wow, I didn't realize the stakes were so heavy, and it's only me. I'm the last one. And she even has that cut and go. And it's amazing to me that Claris will sit there and watch her conversation with Cloud and Cosmo Canyon. They're like, oh, it's so cute. Oh, he says he'll be there for her. But they'll completely ignore what Aerith is saying. She's like, this is her moment where she's actually stops trying to be like the third wheel in Cloud and Tifa's relationship and actually starts focusing on what's important.
Mm-hmm.
She actually starts... She says, you know what? That's when she really starts focusing on her heritage as etc. She starts inquiring more, trying to learn more about her abilities and what she can do to stop Sephiroth. So I don't understand how even Benny Matsuyama could take that and just completely brush it off to the side and just bring Aerith back to basic. Oh, I want to be with Cloud, and just completely ignore her duties as a Cetra. That's her goal in the story. That's her one thing. And we want to get away from her. You had one job, Aerith.
Yeah.
She's got one job.
And then continuing on, before we move on, I'll just give my thoughts briefly on this whole Zack bit. Is that, yes, while Benny Matsuyama is making the focus of Aerith be, her longing for Cloud and stuff, he can't even depict that properly because, again, it makes Aerith seem very, very superficial.
Mm-hmm.
She's just looking on this. Very shallow. Exactly. She admits here that she doesn't really know who Cloud is. She's saying, oh, well, he reminds me of Zack, but oh, I like this version of Zack better. I like this copy better. And it's like, based upon what, Aerith? You haven't met the real Cloud.
Yeah, Benny
Matsuyama. You yourself admit that you can't even decouple Cloud from Zack, so much so that when you're trying to help him out later on in the story, you can't even access him. Your mind goes around in circles and you end up waking up Zack there because everything you've associated with Cloud actually belongs to Zack. So you can't even decouple Cloud from Zack at that point. How can you say you love him more? It doesn't make sense. That's where the writing really suffers in this novel.
And it says she liked him a lot, but yeah, so it makes her like the Maiden version of Aerith, has the depth of like a 14-year-old whose first crush went away, and then some guy that kind of reminds her of him comes along, and she globs on it. I mean, like, it's just like, one like a one-track mind. I only got boys on the mind, even though I got this whole saving the world thing to do. So even after I've been murdered, all I can think about is I wanted to be with this guy.
It totally cheapened her whole arc because it was really like OG Aerith had a lot of issues. Like, it was nice to see her going from someone who was clearly kind of running away from who she was and who was kind of self-absorbed to realizing that she had a much bigger part to play in the planet and that her own wishes were actually not secondary, but they were really important in terms of what the whole planet needed, in terms of what everyone needed, and that she was intimately connected to everything. And then to just be like, she's died, she's now part of everything, and she just goes back to being tiny again. You're like, that's terrible. Like, you made it, the game took her from someone very small and made her someone very big, and then Maiden just took all that bigness and just shrunk her down into this little shallow cuddly person. It was like she was an ocean. They made her an ocean, and you have drained everything that was good about her. Good job, well done.
Yeah. And so as it goes further in, she talks about Cloud's psyche is on an egg on the verge of cracking. And the only thing,
description.
It kind of
like that.
I wasn't crazy about the description either.
And it says
another point. Yeah, like around this time also, and how she wants to physically manifest because she's realizing she has a measure of corporeality. So she's like, oh, maybe I can go and talk to Cloud and let him know I'm okay. And she's like, bitch, no, you're dead. What are you going to do? Haunt the poor guy? No.
Yeah,
the thing is, there's a point in Advent Children where she kind of is haunting protecting him. And she's like, that's not a good thing. You're doing more harm than good. It's just, no.
Let the poor man deal with his stuff. Leave him alone now.
Leave him alone. It's like the ex that isn't accepting the fact that they're an ex now. And it's just like, no.
And what's even worse is that she's not even an ex. She was never with him, and she still won't leave the poor guy alone.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, Maiden is insane. So, it goes on, she's talking about, and they contradict themselves even within, like, Benny does contradict himself even within these parts, because on one hand, he makes it sound like, oh, she would have sacrificed her life to save the planet, of course, blah, 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 which, great. But then it also kind of implies later that she said for Cloud's sake, there was no other option. It's okay, so wait a second. So are you saving humanity because that's the right thing to do? Or are you saving it because your want to be, the guy you want to be your boyfriend is still alive? I mean, which one is it?
It's just like, pick one. That was another issue that I had, because the way Amy put it is actually perfect. They took this, because by the time of Aerith's death, she is a larger than life character, because we have essentially deified her, regardless of whether or not we want to put that in the positive or negative. She has been deified. And then she's smushed back into this, nope, you're not a deity no more. We're taking all of this growth that you've had, and nope, we're gonna have you chasing this poor guy's dick now.
You're gonna want him to get his dick. Even in the afterlife, you will never leave this poor man alone. He will wake up to you in his bed, trying to get him. That is your whole...
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what they claim Tifa's doing, and on the way to a smile. So
yeah,
I guess
honestly,
she's alive.
We call it an exorcism. I mean, like, and maybe
right?
that would tie into Vincent's original job, where he was like a paranormal investigator. Be like, please pull a John Constantine and exorcise this.
Yeah. So
an old priest, and I need a young priest. The power of Christ tells you. The power of Christ tells you.
One thing I did notice, and probably another reason why they glob onto this a lot, is because whispers are mentioned, and so is the word hollow a few times, which I thought was pretty interesting. And whispers is actually mentioned in one of Aerith's profiles too. Like Turquoise Hammer, who did the translations, great big thanks to him for the translations for this. And Odysseus looks like he cleaned it up nicely and put it in a format to where you basically can read it as a book, so thanks to him as well. He just a side note, he did mention that there were always these talks of fate and destiny, and even some moments where these certain words were shown. I think there might have been a description of him being hollow after losing that, but even if that's the reason they talk about it, and the reason it comes up is because there's this part that says Aerith surmised from the whispers of the planet that there may be a way to prevent the worst from happening, something like that. So it mentions Cloud being hollow a couple times, but and it's talking about, and it even, well, maybe I should just, when I get to it, the point being that Benny starts out saying that the reason he's shattering is because he lost Aerith, but then he acknowledges later that that Cloud being in a hollow state was the same way as he was when the first time that Tifa woke his mind up. I'm like, okay, wait a second. So and then as you said, there's a part in here where she says that it's his death that is keeping him together right now, because he has this fury about getting revenge from Sephiroth, just conveniently glossing over again everything that happens between her death and Northern Crater when he actually collapses, and why. So all of this contradicts the story.
And it's just like,
he was fairly calm. I mean, I'm not saying he was happy. I mean, obviously he wasn't happy, but he was like fairly...
It's almost like he was narrating how he was supposed to feel. And that's how he was narrating it. That's the only way I can make that dialogue make sense.
It was like, Aerith dies, and it's like, this is awful, but we still have this thing we have to do. They are focused, so they're still going on, and I'm sure everyone was upset, but it's not like they all had to collapse. I mean, they made it all the way to I was in a comment about this the other day, like, they made it all the way to the Northern Crater. You know, I mean, that's a long journey.
A long journey.
I'm
Yeah,
sure he
it's
didn't
a
get
very
there
long
on
journey.
sheer rage alone. It gets tiring to be angry that long.
Yeah. I mean, it can be argued that they're just numb from the trauma, and then that is why they're just so hyper-focused. And that's what some people do in grief, where they just, I need to do something or else I will fall apart.
Yeah.
So it can be argued, but at the same time, what is shown versus what people want to interpret, it's not meshing.
And
They're
also,
and here's the thing. Is that we don't have to sit here and speculate about what Cloud was feeling or what his motivations were, because you hear what his motivations are in the Forgotten City. Before they begin their trek up to the Northern Crater, yes, Aerith is mentioned. It says, oh, he took Aerith, but Cloud also brings up the fact that Sephiroth took his hometown from him, and and that's the thing, is that Tifa says, don't you need to settle up with Sephiroth and stuff, referencing the things that he was already angry about. It just, what you could say is that Aerith's death strengthened his resolve, but he already had resolve that he was going to take down Sephiroth.
Yeah, because what the hell else have we been doing the whole time?
Just on a holiday, like a really intense, kind of serious holiday.
Yep.
Yes. And on top of that, people are also conveniently forgetting Sephiroth has the black materia. Cloud and company are chasing down Sephiroth because he has the black materia, and he's getting ready to summon a earth-shattering meteor. That's kind of important.
They are all going to die.
I'm sorry, but Aerith's death is only part of the motivation. People try to make it like that's the focal point. I'm sorry. As much as you might love Aerith and stuff, and yes, she is important, and yes, of course, she's important to all the members of the team, she is not the be-all, end-all of their motivation. Their main focus is what is on the logo of FF7. The giant fucking meteor! Thank you!
Yeah, it's just like... It's... You know, that version of the story just... And this is my problem with this, because... no matter which point of view it is, everything always has to point to Cloud's only thing he cares about being Aerith is taken from him. He's even traveling back in time now, according to some. Not to save his own. Don't get me. Hold on, wait. Not to save his own mother. Not to save his hometown. Not to save himself from being tortured for 4 years. Not to save Tifa from being almost killed.
Yeah, right.
Hell, not to save Zack. He just wants to come back to these 3 weeks that he knew Aerith, so he could not remember what the hell happened in the first place and still watch her die later. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, anyway, that was my small tangent. But so and then also I really didn't like there's this part that says his profound sorrow took her by surprise. I think it took us all by surprise.
And how she was like kind of happy to hear him.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading. Yeah, that's what I'm reading.
Really bothered me.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading.
Really bothered me because it made it.
Wait. Can I read it? Let me read it first. Okay, so his and then we're gonna basically skip to the Zack stuff. We'll skim over the other stuff, but a lot of it really wasn't important. Frankly, there was only one part I really was interested in talking about personally. But yeah. So his profound sorrow took her by surprise. And by the way, you're surprised he was sad that you died, but you think he's your lover. I mean, again, this is the exact same thing with the resolution scene. It's like, I'm shocked that you're worried about that Hojo has me, but also don't fall in love with me. Get out of here. Okay. So his profound sorrow took her by surprise. It gave her some joy to know he felt strongly about her, yet the happiness was dwarfed by the ache in his heart. In his heart, how does she know what's going on in his heart? See, again, this is her point of view. This is what she is thinking is going on. It's not necessarily the reality.
But again, it's just the way that it's written makes her feel so self-centered, and she's not.
Mm-hmm. And certainly not at this point.
Fish. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I can almost hear Remake Cloud's voice echoing in the background. Stop acting like you know me.
Exactly. But the thing is just like, it just made her sound so self-centered. And it's just like, she's not. She has selfish qualities, but that is worlds different from this self-centered, like, oh, I'm kind of glad he's sad that I'm gone. It's just like, bitch, no. Who the fuck are you? Because clearly you're not Aerith. No.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Also,
I had so much problem. I had a large problem with this section simply by virtue of how self-important that it made Aerith appear. And it's just like, did we play the same game?
Like, it actually makes me, reading this actually makes me think, oh, maybe I was a little hard on OG Aerith, because this is a nightmare. I'm just like, what? You're happy that he's, but what's scary is that's the mentality a lot of people have around having children too. Is, oh, we're not romanticizing that he wants to go and kill himself to be with Aerith. It's just that that's just how he feels. So it's like, did he say that? I don't recall that part.
The thing is, like, if you really love someone, you don't want them to be really brokenhearted when you die. Like, that's just not how it works. You want them, obviously, like, you don't want them to then immediately, like, jump in someone else's bed. Like, that would be, like...
which also happened, by the way, so...
Like, but you don't want them to be absolutely heartbroken in their entire life to be ruined just because you died. And the fact that that he wrote her like that, like, you make her seem like such a colossal bitch.
Mm-hmm.
You're almost glad he died. You're like, you know what? If anyone deserved this, you did. Sephiroth did us all a favor by doing this.
I gotta.
It's like, why would you make her like this? She's not like that. It's just.
Yeah.
And these are from.
This is the biggest contradiction out of all of it, because it shows that this Aerith anyway, doesn't actually love Cloud. Because when you love someone, you want what's best for them. You want them to be happy. And even it, to the point where, sometimes you would have to accept and let someone go if you know that would be better for them. So this Aerith does not actually love Cloud. She loves the idea of Cloud, but she doesn't actually love him for him. She doesn't know who he is. She's only focused on herself and her own feelings, and she has no regard whatsoever for his well-being. It's so weird, because she'll say, oh, I care about Cloud, but then she's happy that he's upset. Like, I'm sorry. Nah.
Yeah,
fuck yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
I'm not having that shit. Nope.
It really does not make any sense.
No, it doesn't. And it's just, it's a bastardization of Aerith, even when you take into consideration how polarizing the original incarnation of Aerith was. And yes, I'm completely understanding that maybe, actually, no, not maybe. Some things were changed in translation. I understand this. I'm completely candid about that. But no matter how much I hate the original incarnation of Aerith, even that version was not this self-centered and this self-important. Yeah, she enjoyed, like, making a mess of Cloud and Tifa's relationship, according to the English little booklet. Just like she's more interested in part of this love triangle. But it's just like, even then,
well, that's the
original Aerith.
That's the Brady Games guide. Yeah, that's the Brady Games guide, though. I'm pretty sure, and it also calls her. It also calls her a biatch in it. So I mean, I don't think we should take that too seriously.
Yeah, that's also like kindling for the fire at this point.
Yeah,
I have so like that little excerpt just kind of painted my entire perception, even though I'm willing myself to not be tainted by this idea of, yes, she would be happy because that means that he loved her. I'm like, no. One, if you were in a relationship, you would already know, and you'd already have faith that, hey, this person cares about you. Even if it's not romantic, you still like, hey, if they're your friend, they're going to care that you're gone.
Yeah.
So you went away, they're going to be sad. So it's just like, huh?
Yeah, and that also is evidenced in her resolution scene, because when he says, of course I'm worried, she immediately apologizes. She's like, I'm sorry. This Aerith
hurting him.
This Aerith cares. Yeah, this Aerith's like, oh great. As long as he's not worried about that bitch Tifa, that's all I care about. You know?
And it's just like, and even then, it's just like, this is. I'm trying not to disparage Benny at any point. Like, let me put that out there. I'm not trying to disparage him as a person, as a writer.
No.
But as somebody that had, like all of us, we've all gone through the human experience. We've all lost somebody. We've all lost them through death, through moving away, breaking up, just the trials of time. So it's just like, even in like a more superficial relationship, you'd still feel bad. So it just makes no sense that one, she's enjoying the fact that he feels bad. Yes, it's dwarfed by him being oh, he's hurt. I'm glad he's hurt, but I'm sad that he's hurt.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. So I think we can safely say that.
Repeating myself over and over again with this.
Yeah.
And then, as I mentioned, they mentioned just briefly the Promised Land here. It says, the Promised Land is where I am now. Yeah. It's the place where everyone goes in the end to return to the planet. But then it says that Sephiroth's looking for his Promised Land. Why would he be looking for that if he's already part of the planet? I mean, I just...
Exactly.
It's like...
Yeah, it said, like, Genova's Promised Land is in the northern crater.
Yeah, Genova... Yeah, sorry, that's what it was. Genova's Promised Land was the northern crater. It's like, okay.
Yeah, so it's just like, is it the afterlife or is it something else? Is it like, okay, everyone gets their specific room, we're going the supernatural route where everyone has their own heaven? Like, what's going on here? You need to explain this whole thing.
And again, to be fair to Benny, I mean... You ask me what the hell the Promised Land is right now, I'm be like, my best guess is where people are meant to be, like where they're happy. I don't know, something. I don't know. I'm just going based off of what they say about what Cloud's Promised Land is, which is with Tifa and the kids, and then
exactly.
And then it says Zack and Aerith are back in the planet where they belong as well. So, I just, to be fair to Benny, that Promised Land thing is a bit all over the place.
Vague. I agree with you there. I agree with you there, but it's just like, but maybe that's almost like arguing religion.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Yeah. Maybe it's like, maybe he should have just left that bit out. You know?
Yeah.
I'm kind of a firm believer that if you don't really know what it is, just don't mention it, because it just looks weird. You were like, okay, so she's talking about being in the Promised Land, she's in the live stream, so you're naturally making the assumption that, okay, well, fine then, Promised Land live stream, easy. But then it's like northern
it's like he's having a theological discussion with himself.
Like, he doesn't know, so he just kind of put both in, just like hedge his bets and hope that people would make the connection or not make the connection, like whatever.
Well, it'd be easier not to make the connection if it wasn't only 21 pages. I mean, it'd be a little, if it was a whole book, maybe we would not make that connection. But it's like pretty cool.
You're like flip the page. You're like, what?
He makes a good point as well, and maybe this is something we should put into perspective, because it also, there's some criticism to be had possibly about the writing of the 90s OG in general. He says, for me, it just feels like Benny didn't really understand certain lore and didn't really know how to write from a female's perspective or understand the female psyche really well at all. And that might be some of what's going on when we talk about the caddy thing between Tifa and Aerith. These are 90s things that often men were writing these things. Okay,
because they don't talk to women. Like, if they were to sit down and talk to a woman, maybe they'd be like, maybe this is not how women would actually do the thing. Okay,
exactly. And now look, plenty of women like that stuff too. Plenty of women watch reality television, blah blah blah. But that may be something to factor in.
But literally, when, like, my mom will always call it trash TV, and she's just like, she's looking down on the people that are that shallow. It's not like you're holding them to the same standard as yourself. Because one, it's overacted, and two,
you're certainly not going to want to make your idealized video game heroines like trashy Jerry Springer guest. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yes.
Like, you don't watch
this ain't the goddamn Steve Wilkos show, so let's not make this the goddamn Steve Wilkos show, okay?
Yeah. So so that's certainly something to keep in mind as well. And I'm just glad all that is gone. I can say that. Because
also because women are in more spaces now. There is no male dominated space anymore. Thank the gods for that. But so now we're part of the discussion. So now when you look at the original incarnation of Aerith and Tifa's relationship versus now, it's very much women had something to say about that, because if you're going to say that they're friends, they're not going to do that to each other. We look down and we disparage people that betray their friends like this.
Absolutely.
So it's not a realistic case.
Like, interjection, that's why Jessie in Remake was so abhorrent to so many of us, because it's like she's doing exactly the thing that a lot of us didn't like NOG with Aerith. So
Yeah.
you know, it's
Because
like
friends don't do this to each
breaking the
other.
girl code. If you're that girl's friend, you don't do that.
Yeah.
That's just
Pose before bros.
Yeah.
that's
And
breaking the rules.
and this is where I was getting mad with Cloudies, honestly. I'm being quickly 100 with you about the Jesse thing, because I was like, if Aerith had done that same shit in Remake, we would be, I mean, she would have been tarred and feathered. We would have went nuclear. But it was Jesse. But it was Jesse, and everybody was like, "Oh, I love Jesse." Da, da, da. I think maybe it was just but I think Tracer 2 Pass woke a lot of people up too. So I mean, I'm not saying I was the first to.
Yeah.
I may not have been the first, but I was looking sideways at Jesse for a very long time, and it was only after Tracer 2 Pass I was like, yeah, I can't do this.
I remember reading that book and just being like, "This is." And then I remember talking to other people and like, "She's so nice." Like, is she though?
It was. It made. Well, and this is a dynamic. Oh, sorry, real quick. This is the dynamic that just a real side note that Monk mentions about, you know, like how close Aerith and Tifa are now. If she would have turned around and do something sideways to Tifa, it would be even worse than OG, because like when you read Tracer 2 Pass with Jessie and seeing how much Tifa admired her, and then for her to be doing this right under her nose, I mean, it was like such a stab in the back. It was just like, ugh. So yeah, that's why
it's one of those things where you really feel for Tifa, because it's like she can't trust any of the females in her life, because you know
can't trust men, can't trust women.
She likes to have that female companionship, because she didn't really have it doesn't really say that she had any, you know, girlfriends. Yeah, she grew up, you know, she was surrounded by boys, and then she's surrounded by men again when she goes to Midgard, and then she has her one female friend that she's able to connect with on a level that she can't connect to with the men in her life. And then they turn around and do this to her, and you're just like, Tifa can't catch a break.
Yeah.
She's surrounded by these backstabbers. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, and so that's and so to give Remake Air credit, like reading the portions of this about Tifa, like where she just basically glosses over Tifa and just showing to be just, it's like you just don't even give a damn. Do you even care about Tifa? Like this girl was crying over you. Like so that's another thing that made me mad about the Maiden Aerith. She's so focused on her perceived affection for Cloud, which she can't even figure out what the hell it's about, because she keeps saying it's not about Zack, but then can't name anything else.
Exactly. And it's like, but Tifa's supposed to be her best friend, so.
And yet she's barely a thought. She has more interaction with Jessie than in this, and she never even met the girl. She's having.
That's actually
that
something
really irritates me too. Is that Aerith has like no consideration for her own adopted mother. Like Elmira is still alive on the planet too, and she doesn't give a second thought to Elmira. It's all this dude that she knew for a couple of weeks. Like, get real.
Like, it is a direct I keep saying the word parallel, but it's so crazy to me. Like, the thing I keep saying about Jessie with her dying, like, you've known Tifa for years, you know this guy a couple days, and you were sitting there talking to him about your Olden pizza and all this other stuff. Like, stop talking to him. Talk to Tifa, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it's just like, and it's just like, you look at it and it's just like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, I actually had like a whole issue with the scene with the Avalanche trio.
Yeah. We got to keep moving forward because we done went off topic. We got to keep going. So, and I think we mainly just want to talk about like the last couple of pages, the ending. So let's just skim over this stuff. Yeah, the Jesse Biggs and Wedge thing was just odd, and like they're sitting there talking about how they might be damned eternally to be in limbo, and she's like, oh well, we've all made mistakes. I accidentally
customer one.
Yeah, it's like, wait a second, like I feel responsible for thousands of deaths. You are talking about you shortchanged somebody one time for
the same
for a fucking flower. Like, bitch, can we get real right now? Like, what is this?
And it's just like, it makes no sense. And also, it's a change in voice, which is one of the main issues that I had with the entire work. Her voice keeps changing.
Yes.
And when I say her voice, it means that the way that her personality is shown throughout the work.
Mm-hmm.
So up until that point, she's kind of this, again, deified, and how she's this larger than life, even though we all know that her personality was literally chiseled away.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, like, comparing lives to money.
Oh, one time I dropped my lollipop and I still ate it even though it was on the ground. It's like, okay.
Exactly. And then, but here's the thing though, later on she'll say you can't quantify lives, and it's just like, but you just quantified lives to shortchanging somebody. Who the fuck are you, bitch? You're not Aerith.
I don't know what this, I mean,
I don't know what he was trying to do.
Again.
Something though I thought was really cool though was that it's now, that whole bit they were saying there about Avalanche, the lore or whatever he was trying to give, it's now been completely contradicted by remake.
Absolutely.
Totally contradicted it. So I was like, well, there you go. That's that.
And thank you for pointing that out, Amy, to get us back on track. Absolutely. Another thing that's contradicted by the story that we have. Now, I mostly was focusing on ones from OG, but because, yeah, like, he just basically asked us. I mean, there's nothing to really say that if you didn't. Basically, they're turning this into, like, a Catholicism type religion versus, like, whatever is going on in the Seven world, because you have this concept of heaven, hell, and purgatory. You know what I'm saying?
There's some idealizing of almost, that's the best way to put it. It's like they're idealizing this concept of Catholicism without fully committing to the idea of Catholicism.
Exactly, because when you run into Dyne and you run into President Shinra, which we don't have to go into detail except for
we don't,
the whole they make this Death Note point. I don't know if I just spoiler alert for Death Note. At the end of Death Note, when the main character dies, he just ends up in this field with a bunch of, like, orb things. Like, it's basically saying that even though he was pure evil and Light was pure good and all, like, everybody just ends up in the same place. And so that's the point that Dyne and President Shinra make. Like, you know, you lived your life in a positive way. I was a monster, and yet
I actually have two rants to make, very short, about Dyne and President Shinra. First one with Dyne was that I thought it was, I don't know, interesting that they had her pretty much completely, he had her completely redo her callousness towards Barrett.
Yes. And
it was like, it's like, what did she do with Barrett? Let's just put that here. And it was like she was being such a bitch to this man. And like, this man has just lost everything. And supposedly, they made it seem like she was there and she heard a story. Like, why are you so unsympathetic? How come you're so unsympathetic to this guy? Which was just boggled my mind. And then the bit with Shinra, I just, for fuck's sake, man, shut fuck up. He was just going on and on about his evil plans and how he'd went in and how Shinra had went from here into there, and she was just standing listening. Like, why is she just standing listening? She hates this guy, and we're having to stand and listen.
Exposition.
Exactly, and it's like literally nobody cares. And it was almost like he had been told he had to have like 2,000 words, and he had got like 1,500, and he was like, shit, how do I fill this up? I know, I'll just have Shinra just give us his
monologuing.
And that'll fill it up. And then he gets gobbled up.
And she's so busy talking to rando people that don't matter, dying. Like, what is it that she doesn't even notice that Sephiroth has just cast a goddamn meteor?
Why not notice?
Exactly.
She's meant to be, like, connected to the planet, and she has no fucking idea that the biggest bad guy is just chilling, like sucking souls into himself like some sort of weird slug creature, Hoover, and she's just like wandering about, just like chatting with people, just like, oh hey, how are you? You were dead. I guess I kind of knew you. Like,
yeah, it's like they you know, the way that some fans, I'm not gonna say all fans, some Aerith stands are like, yeah, and she is a big part of how the planet is saved, of course. But the people particularly who do that and then love Maiden, I'm like, she's so busy thinking about Cloud and and talking to bad guys in the afterlife that she doesn't even notice that the world is ending. Like, these two things do not go together. So what about this do you like exactly? That is what
I have a working theory.
That is what I'd like to know.
Well, I have a working theory. This is my theory. I think that a lot of that scene, or a lot of those scenes from the Avalanche Trio to Dyne to Shinra, is basically Aerith is being used as the proxy. So basically, it's Benny using Aerith as a way to kind of reprimand and scold. But at the same time, it's just, and again, this is where we lose Aerith's voice, and then it's just this other amalgamation wearing Aerith's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then when you go through it, like for example, with Dyne, it's just like you said, there is no sympathy. He has gone through some of the most atrocious traumas. No person should have to go through these things. So it's understandable why he became what he did. You can understand it, be sympathetic, and still condemn it, but you can still be understanding. She don't give a shit, and it's just like, hang on one second. I know you have Aerith there as the person listening, but that's not how it would go. And then she's like cutting him off and cutting him down at the knees, and yet she's letting freaking Shinra ramble on, and it's just like, if you're gonna cut anybody off, cut that motherfucker off. And then he gets slurped up.
When we started off with Barrett and she started doing that, it was like, oh, she did it once. And then that was that. And she did it once, and then you could be like, okay, that's that. But when she then meets another man, she's already knows this man's story. At least before with Barrett, you could argue, well, she wasn't fully aware of everything that happened to him. She knows. She's literally seen this man kill himself, apparently. And she's still being hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just, it makes no sense in that basically she's essentially becoming almost a Madonna figure. Like she's the Virgin Mary when Catholics go to confess or they want to talk to God, they will talk to Mary or they'll talk to Jesus. I'm rusty on Catholicism, forgive me. But it's just like, so they are unburdening themselves onto her. But then they kind of have her like fall short of this Madonna figure that Benny is trying to portray Aerith as, and he's falling short. Because again, she is not forgiving, she's not understanding, and she doesn't have these traumas to kind of relate.
It just and it depends on the person she's talking to, because she's because she's completely unsympathetic with Dyne to the point where I was actually kind of impressed by the way she stuck up for Barrett. Honestly,
but then she lets freaking Shinra ramble on and on and on and on and on.
And then
she's handed to them. It was Shinra, and she just kind of was
like, "Oh, continue. Yeah, go ahead. I like the actual evil dude. Oh, just go ahead."
Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense because, like, if you're going to listen to somebody, listen to Dyne. Don't listen to Shinra.
I'm not going to lie. Tell how he feels. And shut Shinra up. Kick him.
And then they make her seem mature in the conversation with Dyne. She seems very mature and
then she sounds like a freaking teenager when, like, I'm not listening or you're wrong, and it's just like, no.
Or talking to the Avalanche Trio. They're talking about confessing their sins and how they feel like the reason they can't move forward. Blah blah blah. She doesn't give them any. She's just like, yeah, well, I sure chased somebody one time. It was a mess.
Her voice keeps changing, and I understand that one of the main criticisms that a lot of people have with regards to OG Aerith's incarnation is that she lacks consistency because she was originally written as a plot device. That was how she was originally written. Now, not so much, but with this, it's because her voice wasn't consistent. Now, even the works emulating her are flip-floppy, but this is done so badly. To kind of wrap up my statement, is just I feel as if with Shinra, it was one like just like Amy said, just like he's monologuing, like to quote the Incredibles, is just like he starts monologuing, like he's got me, and then he's monologuing, and I feel as if it was a lost opportunity. Because,
the guy's got me on a platter, and he won't shut up.
But here's the thing, and then it's just like, oh, soul will never repent, da 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 da, and then he gets sucked up into the Sephiroth, and I'm like, really, you missed the opportunity to have him sucked up into one of the Mako reactors? That would have been perfect. You missed your chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, it went against what it is contradicted by. It went against Livestream White because she said she does go around and try and soothe the souls of, but she's not. Like, it doesn't give you the impression that she's going around and, like, having these interesting conversations. She's soothing them. She's trying to like allow them to let go of whatever is
so they can dissipate.
tethering this, so they can relax into it. But this was almost like she was just like, oh well, I guess they'll just be hanging about forever.
Yeah, she just left the trio. She's like, well, whatever. Y'all have fun trying to join the live stream. I gotta go talk to Dine now. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then by the way, just this whole book in general, because there's I made this point to Affection in the chat. The people who hate Tifa and worship Maiden, right?
Yep.
The people who hate Tifa and worship Maiden claim that Tifa's too obsessed with Cloud. She can't live without Cloud. What would she do if she didn't have him around? And she's codependent on him.
Yeah.
What this girl just is dead. And all she can think about, and she just keeps going back to Cloud. Like, okay, so, but then also not paying attention. Like, she's so in love with Cloud that she's all he can think about. But then she's so busy talking to bad guys that she isn't even paying attention. Maybe that's why she didn't know that Cloud was really in love with Tifa, because maybe she clearly wasn't paying any attention in this between what happened.
But her own idea of what things are supposed to be.
Yeah, like once she died, it was just like she died. Sorry, and then Meteor was cast. She didn't see the whole thing where Cloud is snowboarding and having all these moments with Tifa.
It's probably for the best that she doesn't know that he was snowboarding and trying to get that high record.
Yeah. I mean,
Cloud is wiping out on the mountainside, and what's Eric doing? Oh, she's got her thumb up her ass and she's talking to Shinra.
Like for pages and pages. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And so it finally gets to the part where, because this is where the juicy stuff is, and then we can, so I'm gonna read through some of this real quick. A hollow shell. Cloud ended up alone and forsaken in Midgard. Afterward, he encountered Tifa Lockhart, the real Cloud's childhood friend. Upon meeting her, he instantly transcribed Tifa's image of him thanks to the memory duplication ability Jenova had. So basically what it sounds like she's implying here is that the Cloud stripe that she knew is based solely on Tifa's memory. That also is a contradiction of what they say in this exact.
So much.
Yeah, let me read what. Shoot. Okay, here we go.
Got me angry, and you can hear it in my voice. I'm getting more and more like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I want to get to the stuff we really want to talk about, because we're trying to keep this under 2 hours because it's after midnight for poor Amy.
Honestly, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm really into this now, so if you stop me, then I'll just go to bed and just be really angry.
And poor Adam will be like, yeah, please don't let her leave angry.
He doesn't live here, so it's fine.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Dad will hear me from the next room, just like shouting at the wall. This same. It's either this one or Ultimate. I think this is Omega as well. This mimetic ability belongs to not only Genova's main body, but those who possess her cells, albeit a limited capacity. Just prior to the beginning of the story, Cloud was in a state of spiritual collapse, yet he seemingly reverted to normalcy immediately after meeting Tifa. This is because Genova's cells inside him used their mimetic ability to read the image of Cloud and Tifa's memories, as well as his own ideal version of himself, constructing them into the entirely new personality. And Bottom says an entirely new personality. I just want to mention that. So he's partially right here, but it's a very slanted version of the truth, because in actuality, I know exactly what he's done.
And that's not a coincidence. The way that he glosses over Tifa's importance to Cloud, like, and I get it. I get why Tifa haters do it and Clara stans do it, because you can't accept Tifa's role in Cloud's life and think that he would ever run off with Aerith. I mean, you just can't. So I'm seeing the Claret side of him come out when I read something like this. When the same passage is in the exact same Ultimania saying why he has the Genova persona, and then he puts in quotes the real Cloud's childhood friend. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, what you doing?
Yeah, so
you
that was
definitely see the bias in those quotation marks, and honestly, I hated those. Like, you could read so much between those quotation marks.
Oh yeah, and let me add to this. Real quick. This isn't the only time he puts those little quotation marks, and the other time that he does it It's very telling, and you can almost taste the salt coming off the page.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
No, you're not
man.
wrong though.
Well, are you going to tell us what you're talking about? Or what was the other time he used it?
He uses the same quotation marks later on, like during the when Tifa is like repairing his mind.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's later on.
And I was just like, you can clearly see Benny's bias. And it's just, and this is a penchant for glossing over everything that the other characters have done. Not just Tifa. Literally just like taking Cloud's
Every
accomplishments
other
and
character in this
Tifa's
story suffers.
everybody's accomplishments and just like, hey, we're going to give these to Aerith. I'm just like, and then taking away
Lord.
Aerith's accomplishments to make room for everybody else's. I was just like, no! Stop!
And look at this shit right here. At the Northern Crave, I'm sorry, Crave. I'm hungry. At the Northern Cave, Cloud's personality was adroitly, I've never seen that word before actually, peeled away when adroitly, sure. Peeled away when Sephiroth commandeered Jenova to confront him. What's more, his very consciousness fell under Sephiroth's control. In a shocking turn of events, he ended up entrusting his puppeteer with the key to summoning Meteor, the Black Materia. No, wait. Just in a shocking turn of events, meaning like a large portion of the beginning of this too, where his mind collapses for the second time because he thinks Tifa's lost faith in him. He just makes that like a half of a paragraph. Shocking turn of events. Can't imagine what.
Like I had to read twice because just like, hang on, didn't we already talk about Meteor already being summoned? What's going on here? Did it happen?
That's another thing. That's another thing. It was cast with shit was going down when President Shinra turned into soup or whatever that Bobby keeps saying.
Swooped up into the freaking ether or freaking.
What was that materia that gave you like? Was it, it's Quadra Magic gave you 4 times, or is it 2 to start with? So it was like
Meteor, 2 to start with and then 4.
Yeah. Meteor, but like Quadra Magic.
You're thinking of 4-cut material.
Yeah, 4-cut. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm playing this game right now, so I'm like a little obsessed.
But what was I gonna say?
Sorry, I'll shut up.
It'll come back to you.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Is that whole thing about he said something that's about based on a boy who existed in Tifa's consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's exactly what Sephiroth said. It's like you have literally taken the words of the villain, of the bad man, the baddest man, and you've said that that's what happened. The whole point was that he was lying. He was bullshitting to upset Cloud. Like, why would you take that as
It's
why would you do that? And it's like almost word for word.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why would you say, see that guy, the guy that's been killing everyone and is trying to destroy the planet? He knows what's up.
And it's almost like she was. It's almost like she was listening to this because later she has some thought about Cloud. Like when she's talking to Zack, she has a thought about Cloud saying, "So he is the real Cloud." So she's in love with this man. They're lovers supposedly. She don't even know if it's really him. She's not even sure he's not a puppet. Like, come
she
on.
Said something about
exactly.
the flashes.
Like, oh my god, it gets so bad later on. It gets so bad. Holy shit.
There's a bit that she was saying about like she wasn't sure if he really was who he said because there was flashes of a cheerful personality. And you were like, so Zack's personality. So you said earlier that you couldn't recognize because it was only funny quirks. But now you're saying that you saw flashes of a cheerful personality that reminds you of Zack. Like, which
and then how creepy is this shit? Okay, so Cloud aided the man who's supposed to, and then how creepy is this shit? Aerith drew right, so Cloud's body is floating around in the live stream or whatever. It says Aerith drew right up next to Cloud as his body continues to drift away, trying her utmost to speak to him. Let's see, trying her almost to speak to him. She stayed by his side all the way as he was swept towards Medill, but he couldn't hear her voice. So now, like, what her ghost is like following his lifeless body around the water as it's floating.
Training harder. You really need to.
Listen to the restraining order, okay?
Like so
spiritual restraining order.
And if y'all don't know what we're talking about, there was this this controversy. I mean, the things that go for controversy in this fandom blow my mind. But where somebody said that Tifa was codependent on Cloud, and it was a toxic relationship because of how well she took care of him and Midil. So Tifa taking care of him and Midil, her being alive, him just in a comatose state, needing
loved ones take care of their ill loved ones.
That's creepy. But Aerith's ghost haunting his floating unconscious body throughout the water as he floats to Midil. Nothing creepy about that at all.
Exactly. When you put it like that, it's so bad.
Him though, that's the thing. She's not even able to help him. She's just following him around. At least Tifa's doing something. Jesus,
right?
I mean,
the way that her taking care of him is creepy, and she's like, "I'm a caregiver." Okay, like. The reason I started my own businesses plural, in order to maintain my household is because I am a caregiver. I am taking care of a disabled parent. I am essentially helping taking care of my partially disabled brother sometimes.
Codependent.
So just, like, to be called like codependent and have that be toxic, I'm like, I'm sorry, huh?
Yeah, it was
everyone that's taking care of a disabled family member, everyone that's just that is there for a child, everyone that's like people that are in the medical field. We're all toxic.
I took care of my dad in hospice. I took care of my grandma. I helped take care of her, of course, like I took very much offense to that. I was like,
exactly. Like,
you're out of your mind.
I held my grandfather's hand as he passed.
Yeah.
My mom and I, we were there at his hospice room every freaking day.
Yeah.
With very few exceptions. And like, my family is a telenovela. Okay. There was some toxicity going on there that made it very difficult.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The way you put it. Telenovela. But yeah, not to get off topic. So, but yeah, that was just ridiculous. So when I
took offense to that. I was triggered. I was so triggered.
Yeah, I was absolutely triggered. So when I see something like this, I'm like, are you serious right now? And she's sitting there. It reminds me of, I swear I read it somewhere. I've got to find it, but they said that they were going to have Aerith's like soul or whatever on the bike with Cloud as he drove to Forgotten City, and then they were like, yeah, that's too damn creepy, we're not doing it.
Zamora was the one who pulled the plug on that. He said he didn't want to scare kids. And I'm like, oh my god. I never laughed so fucking hard.
Yeah, and then the thing is they actually removed Aerith completely by that point. It's like, no, because people are misunderstanding. Like, because by Advent Children, it goes from less of her like haunting him and more of her kind of being a presence that is watching over all her loved ones. Mm-hmm. And you do feel that transition before Advent Children Complete came out.
Yeah.
But because it was so misunderstood, they're like, nah, we're just going to erase her from this also, because people, if you can't play nice with people, you can't have the nice thing. So like,
this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah. And so this is where we're getting into the exact thing. So how can I help you, Cloud? Even if I do, there's still Meteor to take care of. I had no idea Holy was being held back. Yeah, because you were too busy. You were too busy daydreaming about.
Yeah, when I read that,
okay. One at a time. Amy and then Monk.
Sorry. Yeah. I remember when I read that, and she's like, "Oh no, I have to save the planet." But oh no, it's Cloud. I'm like, there is one thing that is far more pressing right now, and it will literally squish us. It is so pressing, and I could not conceive of this entire like mentality where she's literally has to save the planet and they are all going to die, but she's spending half this time going, but Cloud, I mean, I can with Cloud. It's like, you're dead. Like, you're dead. Like, I think
pay attention.
Focus on right now. Yeah, I mean, you're dead. I think you should have noticed. You got stabbed. They spent about 5 pages talking about you floating to the bottom of some sort of magical lake. Can you just move on, please? You have other stuff to do.
Real quick, before Monk answers, Darkstar asks, how does Cloud drive to Forgotten City if it's across the sea? They mentioned somewhere that the landscape, like the actual globe, has changed since Meteor Cast. Am I right about that, Monk? So that's likely how he's able to.
That's what I recall.
That's what I recall.
that on the way to a smile kind of touches on it a little bit. Once the light stream erupts from the planet, the planet does go through somewhat of a transformation.
It's kind of a tectonic change, yeah.
It was kind of a tectonic change when you have a giant, 200 million
of gold coming out and moving things around,
come barreling down on the planet, and then all of a sudden the lifeblood of the planet is erupting and going everywhere. Yeah, it is going to be a little bit of a change.
I mean, it very much reminds me of the dinosaurs type thing, and how we used to be. They say it used to be one big continent, and now we got 7 continents. Yeah, so Pangea, and then now, so that's how it happens. That's the theory. Okay, sorry, Mark. What were you gonna say?
Just kind of going off again about how what a disservice to Aerith's character this whole part is, because again, in the OG, Aerith Cloud has obviously broken down at the Temple of the Ancients, and Aerith obviously knows that Cloud is going through some shit, and that his psyche is literally breaking down. But even still, she had her priorities right. Even though she still obviously cared about Cloud, and in the little dream sequence, whatever, when she's communicating with Cloud, she's like, "Oh, take care of yourself. But by the way, I got this other shit I gotta take care of. So good luck with that. I'm gonna go take care of what I need to do. I'm the only one who can stop Sephiroth." And that Aerith had her priorities right. She knew that she needed to go stop the meteor because that was the pressing issue at the time. She needed to go stop Sephiroth. She was since Aerith. If Benny Matsuyama's Aerith was there, she would have been hanging around Cloud's bedside. Oh, what can I do to help? Oh, I don't know the real you. Blah, blah, blah. For the planet, screw my responsibilities. I want to be here with Cloud. Oh my god.
I know what happened. I know exactly what happened. When Sephiroth stabbed her, she lost so much blood that it stayed with her when she died. So actually, she's suffering from blood loss, and she's just crazy.
Of course, yeah. Maybe this is all a hallucination before she actually dies.
She's actually totally.
And we forgot to mention that Cloud becomes a cartographer as well. So the reason he has to do that is because everything's changed. Yeah. So, so
and apparently he's able to do it all from memory. Maps must be pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie, that would be a lucrative business.
Cloud has a lot of hidden talents, just like the being able to wield a sword the way he does. Like they mentioned that as just a natural talent.
Read music.
Like what? Yeah, he's a bit of a savant in and of his own right. Absolutely.
Honestly, like,
and he was, even though he suffers from motion sickness, he's able to pilot a freaking submarine.
With Tifa's help. I want to throw that out there.
Tifa's help, of course, naturally.
Yeah, that useless bitch Tifa.
Big titty bitch.
Yeah, big titty bitch Tifa and her.
But here's the thing. I have a theory, and I know this is probably like strictly headcanon. I honestly think the only reason Cloud wasn't accepted into Soldier, especially given the fact that he is so able-bodied and he is kind of a swordsman or a genius, so to speak, where he's picking it up easily. I think part of it was just he just couldn't accept the Mako. So it's just like his body rejected it, so he was kind of not viable as a soldier up until Hojo did his mad scientist experiments.
I feel like I read somewhere that I might have been making this up, but I feel like I read somewhere that he passed all the physical tests, but it was mentally the way he didn't get in. Like, he was smart enough and he was physically good enough, but he was just mentally weak. Much. Which I always took to mean that he didn't have enough, like, the self-confidence and the strength
exactly. That's what I always thought.
He would be required.
Because when the chips were down, when he was in that fucking mode, he was able to kill Sephiroth. So I mean,
at 16 years old.
Yeah, 16.
And he was also shish kebabbed, and he's like, you know what? Fuck you.
Hey, look, if I'ma die here, we all dying here, bitch. All right.
I'm taking you down with me.
Absolutely.
I love that scene so much, but we really should continue.
Yeah. We gotta go.
I gotta leave in like 10 minutes.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So then let's talk about the last thing you want to talk about. I'm assuming it's Zack stuff. So let's just dive right into that. Basically, she's trying to figure out how to help Cloud. She realizes that her voice can't reach Cloud. Duh.
Yeah, because
And
he's off to her.
exactly. They say several times his heart only opens to Tifa. It's shown in the game twice.
And the way that entire section is written, it feels so bitter.
Yeah. So she, as she's thinking about whether she knew the real Cloud or not, she's saying, I wish I could be with you, the real you. Then she wonders if she, what parts for him are real, which ones aren't. Meaning Maiden is even saying she doesn't know what real Cloud is versus Soldier Cloud. Yeah. She just knows the parts that remind her of Zack. And as she's thinking about all this, Zack appears.
Yeah,
so
she's literally manifesting him
like magic.
Yeah, so
woke the
Zack
poor man up
so
from his nice little live stream sleep to come and fetch him. That's what she
did. Yeah, she conjured him just so she could tell him that she would have rather been with Cloud. Yes. So sounds like a lovely woman.
Exactly. And the thing is, what was used to conjure Zack, if she's thinking of all the traits that Cloud has that she likes, literally she called Zack. She is calling to Zack in Cloud, and then she's all like, yeah, no. And it's just like,
yeah. What? And
use your brain, connect the pieces.
That entire section just hurt my head because it's like, okay, so you like these things that remind you of Zack because you still are pining for Zack. And then Zack actually shows up. He's like, no. But it's just like the traits that you like are Zack. So you like Zack, but you don't like Zack. Make that make sense.
It's like,
yeah, we're gonna let Monk take the floor because she's the one that's got to leave. Zack, Mr. Darkstar says, Zack, Zack, go away. I want the guy you gave your life for. Yeah, like, okay, come on.
The sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, so and she says Zack, the man she'd seen, and the way Cloud acted. Like, this whole section is about how Zack reminds her of, or Cloud reminds her of Zack. She doesn't know the real Cloud. I mean, all stuff that Cloudy say, and Clara's lose their mind every time we say it, and yet their Bible here says the exact same thing. So, like, who are you mad at? So, pick a struggle. Don't get mad at me. This is your doctrine, not mine.
Exactly, absolute rubbish.
Anyway, so Monk, you take the floor as much time as you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna hit on the stuff with Zack, and I might even touch on some of the stuff that happens with the live stream too, because I do want to talk about that. First of all, as you all have said, Aerith can't seem to figure out what she wants.
Yeah.
I mean, here she is, she's dead, and she's still trying to figure out if she actually likes Cloud or not. And it's like, bitch, this is irrelevant. You're fucking dead. What the hell are you even talking about, girl? And here's the thing, and I know we're gonna love bragging on Aerith's portrayal here, but I'm gonna brag on the way Zack is portrayed here too, because my boy Zack was done so fucking dirty in this part of the story. Excuse my French, but Zack is one of my favorite characters, and unlike Aerith, I actually really like Zack, and so this shit in particular really rubs me the wrong way. Mm-hmm. First of all. The way that they portray Zack, like, he's so flippant in this portrayal. Like, he doesn't even really care that Aerith doesn't, like, love him anymore, and I know for a fact that the real Zack would be absolutely devastated. I mean, especially when you see how he is in Crisis Core, when he's reading the letters that he's had in his pocket for 4 years, and he finds, but what do you mean final? And he's devastated. Mm-hmm. And this Zack is like, oh, you actually like the guy that I sacrificed my life for better? Okay, fine. I mean, you were the best one, but I guess I'm gonna go to sleep now and call me when you want me. And I was like, bitch, what the hell am I reading?
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh my god.
What is this? What is this hot shit? Oh my god. And you can just, like I said, there's just certain parts of this novel, like whenever Tifa and her importance to Cloud is very begrudgingly acknowledged and kind of glossed over as much as Benny can. And you could just, it's so funny because you can literally almost taste the salt coming from the page because of how begrudgingly certain aspects and certain relationships are portrayed in this novel. And it just, the way Zack is portrayed here, like, this Zack is like so he doesn't take anything seriously, and that is something that real Zach does. You know, yes, he's cheerful, yes, he's upbeat, but he also knows when it's time to take things seriously.
Yeah.
And this Zach doesn't take any goddamn thing seriously.
Nothing.
He doesn't take his relationship with Aerith seriously. He doesn't seem to even be all that particularly concerned about what's going on with Cloud, which is bullshit.
Yeah, he died.
He makes a joke about. I mean, not even a. It wasn't meant to be a joke, but he was like, "Well, I guess you're dead too if you're here. Sorry for your loss." Like, what the fuck?
What is this, Jay?
Like, what? Zach died protecting Cloud, trying to get to Aerith, and it's just like, sorry for your loss.
Do you think Zach is gonna have if he's there when Aerith dies in remake? You think he's gonna have that reaction? No, I'm sorry.
No, of course not.
No.
Come on! Oh my god!
I mean, look at how the way that Zach reacts when he loses Angeal. He's there on the floor. He's sobbing, and
Aerith has to come over and comfort him. It's like,
yeah,
like wait a freaking and again, I'm gonna kind of as much as I absolutely hate this, I'm still not gonna try to tear into Benny himself too much, because I also understand that this novel was written before Crisis Core, so he doesn't have anything to really reference Zach off of. But my main thing here, why I'm so pissed off, is I'm pissed off at the people in this fandom who supposedly are supposed to know what the hell they're talking about, and they sit there and try to push this shit as canon. Unfucking believable.
I mean,
and they'll sit there and they'll push Crisis Core, that was written by Nojima, is an official part of the compilation. They'll push that off to the side and say, that's not canon, that contradicts stuff, but they'll embrace this shit? Excuse me?
No. And it doesn't even help them, because this part right here,
it doesn't even help them. I don't understand.
So it's like, so you know him too, Cloud? Cloud really exists? Meaning she doesn't even know that Cloud is real right here. This is Aerith Gainsborough, Maiden version. So asking Zach if Cloud is even a real person. There's a person she's supposedly in love with that she's more in love with than the person she's sitting there talking to.
The real guy she actually knew. Apparently she only knew. It mentioned something like a close friend or some shit.
Yeah, a close friend who was her first love. Okay.
They totally go together.
God, this is so
like,
cringe.
Oh, is Cloud even a real guy? But she's like, Zach comes up and he's like, hey, I've not seen you. And he makes a weird joke. But at least she had a relationship with him. But she'd rather go with a guy who she doesn't even know who he is. She can't even separate him from the guy she was with.
Yes.
She's like, is he real, really? Like, it would be like looking at like a fictional character and being like, you can have them or you can have this real guy. It's like, there's really no competition. Plus, she's dead, so there's that problem as well. I mean, it's just a really weird. And when you take a step back, you're like, this actually hurts my head to think that he sat down. Sorry, Benny, that he sat down and he must have thought about this and thought, yeah, that makes sense.
Here's the thing, though, and I know we're giving the caveat that this was before Crisis Core, but there was enough in the original game to showcase that Zach did care. If you get his hidden scenes, you actually it shows that he was trying to get to Midgar to be with Aerith.
I don't think it's that he didn't know. Again, I think this is the same thing. People who just want Clara to be canon, want it to be real. This is what you have to do to the story to truly try to canon. In order to canonize Clara.
Yeah,
you have to ignore so much of this. You have to ignore or suppress or twist so much of the story to make it real. Yeah. It becomes a fan fiction of itself. Thus, you get this.
A previous commenter, I didn't catch their name because I'm blind right now. It's basically character assassination. They completely butchered Aerith, butchered Zach. They're glossing over Cloud as a character until he is essentially just a plot device for her to revolve around. And it's just like, okay, you're taking away his accomplishments. You gloss over Tifa because by even announcing one of her accomplishments, apparently that's going to take away from this bastardization of Aerith. And it's just like, again, I don't want to slam. Sorry, Benny, but it's just like, this is garbage. This is pure garbage.
Yeah. The content
like,
is a mess. It's just like,
I didn't even mean like from a canon, like what's happened to the game. I mean from the beginning of the story to where we're at.
yes.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
It
I
doesn't.
don't need to have known canon to look at this and be like, this doesn't line up. Like, he's saying
It
stuff at
doesn't.
the start, which doesn't make any sense later. Like, he wrote the start, never read back, just kept writing.
I don't think so.
and
Other
it's
people must have
glaring.
read this and thought, why did no one else think?
And it's glaring. Yeah, you're right. There's even there's a lot of contradictions within it, and we're going to be at 2 hours and 15 in about 15 minutes. So we're going to wrap this up. Monk, are you still there? Are you gone? Do you need to say goodbyes?
No. I'll stick around because I do want to talk about the live stream stuff.
Oh, okay. Well then, let's get to that. But I do want to say, so basically here, another thing where Maiden agrees with Cloudy's. She asks Zach, "Is there any way that we can prove to him he's the real person?" He says, "I don't think we can pull it off. It seems like the only one who can is that Tifa girl. She was in Nibelheim at the same time as me and Cloud. If her memories inside her can make Cloud remember what happened, then just maybe." So. Now I suppose you could be generous and say the takeaway would be like because they're dead and they can't reach him, but living can't reach him either. Tifa's the only one that can reach him. I mean, everybody was in there talking to him. It's only Tifa's cries that he hears. So
Exactly.
twice. So with living or dead, that is not the problem. The problem is they're not Tifa, and thus she. Now what pissed me off personally. This whole thing, yeah, she being honest, it pissed me off, but also very true in some parts. Being honest with herself, Aerith wished she could be the one to help Cloud, but this was a role she couldn't fulfill. 1000% accurate. So even Maiden, Aerith knows she can't help him. Yeah. And then, but the line that pissed me off was like, therefore she would entrust this task to Tifa. Who the hell? Tifa has known him her whole life. She damn near just sacrificed her life to save a comatose Cloud who just helped end the world. Okay, she decided to forsake even saving the world to stay by his side because she believes that that's her real Cloud and he'll wake up one day. Okay,
exactly.
You're gonna you
have no proof
you the girl who knew him 3 weeks are gonna entrust her.
Yeah. Where do you get the
I know. I'm so glad
like,
gave her blessing.
We are not. It's this level of self-importance that Aerith has. Like, she is the be-all, end-all of everything to do with Cloud, even though she doesn't even fucking know this guy. But she's gonna push Tifa off to the side, who has known him for years. They have a whole relationship that Aerith is not even privy to at this point. She doesn't know all their history and everything that they've been through together. But she's gonna entrust her. She's gonna entrust this to Tifa. Bitch, fuck off.
Yeah. It's like where does this incarnation get the right? She has no right to entrust anything.
It is. That was just the most arrogant line, and for her to be like, but then again, how does this help people who like Maiden? It says right here. It says right here she would leave everything to the love of Cloud she knew resided within her. That line is a little weird.
That line was so confusing. Like, who's love? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I didn't get that. But it says to the woman who would go on living beside him. Now, if this is just a friend, what does it mean to go on? Everybody's living beside him if it's just a friend. Why is she framing it like that?
There was a thing she said, like something about them cuddling or something on the way back up.
Tifa.
This is the line I was talking about earlier when I was talking about the very conveniently placed quotation that you can taste the salt.
Because entire excerpt.
He put living in quotation marks. It's like, bitch, why would you put quotation marks around living? Either she's living with him or she isn't. What's with the quotation marks there?
I don't see it.
Like, well, in the original novelization, I'm not sure if it was
okay.
In the original novelization, and you can read it on livestream.net. There are quotation marks around Cloud and Tifa living together. So there's quotation marks, and I'm just like, okay, Benny, all right.
Well, I can tell. The entire section is written. You can feel like the envy dripping, and it's just like. Are we talking? And again, it goes back to: are we talking about the same character? Because it's just
Right.
It really is very much a begrudging. Like, okay, well, you can have him because I can't. But it's just like, bitch.
As if you have a choice. Yeah, as if you have a choice.
You have a choice.
Like,
it's like, where does
that
Cloud
was
come in? Where does Cloud come into any of this? This is what pisses me off.
Who
Like,
cares?
it's like Cloud is his own person. Obviously, if he's living with Tifa, it's because he is choosing to live with Tifa. When does he get his say in all of this?
I mean,
basically, Cloud is Princess Jasmine. That is the prize to be won by all the princes. Here comes Prince Ali and everybody trying to win their hand in marriage.
God.
And the thing is, like, yeah, and as Amy was saying, even within this story, she's saying that his heart shattered because he lost her, but then what is her conclusion in her mind as the reason that Tifa is the only one that can reach his heart, and she's the one that's going to go on living beside him, making it like almost like making it seem like a romantic context, like living on beside him. Everybody's living on beside him who's alive. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
why would he be living beside her? You know, and then it says and Tifa indeed pulled through. Yeah. Comparing Cloud's memories with her own, she managed to discover things only the true Cloud would know. Yeah, the only thing, like, she's the only one that can. With these as proof, Cloud's closed door was open. His true identity was extracted from the depths of his heavily fortified memory, blah, 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 blah.
By the way, Benny, what were those memories that only Cloud and Tifa had? Oh,
yeah, I had a problem with that too.
A secret sealed up wish that no one can ever know, huh, Benny? Huh?
It also glosses over the fact that Tifa was also with an incorrect history of everything that happened. Sorry,
exactly.
But it's just like it's completely glossing over the fact that she was also gaslit into thinking that, hang on, maybe my memory is wrong. What's going on here? And it's just like, okay, we're not going to touch that. Both of them. Both Cloud and Tifa were living in this illusion or living in a half-truth, and they had to come together to find that the actuality between the two of them. But no, we're just going to gloss over everything, and it's just like, so you sure you're not going to touch base on this? Because this is actually important to Cloud healing himself. Because it's not just Tifa's effort into healing Cloud, it's Cloud healing himself. He's working on himself for her sake as well. But no, we're going to gloss over that.
Yeah.
It was really funny though, because the way they said it, it made it sound like they just compared notes. You know, like he listed the memories he had, and Tifa listed hers, and they were like,
have one of these.
Yeah, exactly. They just had a notebook.
Yeah, and see, this is where I think, and I was saying this when I was debating with Clarith, a couple of weeks ago about Maiden, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this as I'm going through the novel again, I'm like, this is where they get like probably 90% of their cracked out ideas about this story, about
I actually included that in my notes.
the nature of the relationship between Cloud and Tifa, because they look at this as their quote unquote Bible. They go to this for all of their. They will completely ignore the actual story. They'll completely ignore the rest of the compilation, and they will go to this and they say, "Oh, Cloud and Tifa just compared notes, so therefore we could completely replace Tifa. We could just throw Zack in the live stream scene, and we'll get the same result."
Yeah, let's throw his best friend and her dead boyfriend in the scene, because that makes it sound a lot better. Hey, best friend, I'm coming to save your life a second time, by the way. I'm dead, but I'm coming to save your life a second time. Just so you can run off with my, just so you can run off with my girlfriend who I died trying to come back. Like,
I mean, even in Advent Children, where Zack is like, "Do you need my help?" and Cloud's like, "No, I got it. You continue resting. We good. You go. You did enough."
It's such a wonderful scene.
I know. I love this scene.
I cry every time I see it.
Yes.
I love Zack. He really is a puppy, but it's just like, let the poor man rest.
All right, so Annie got the age that Aerith fell in love with Zack wrong too, but whatever. Okay, so I want to get to the live stream thing that you're talking about, but yeah, this is the part where so let me read this real quick. We can rant and then let Monk say her last thing she wants to say about the live stream, and I think we're done. So and if I missed anything, y'all bring it up. So this part, smiling with a motherly smiling with a motherly sort of affection. Okay. Aerith,
okay. That's a little weird.
Third time she's referred to as his mother. I just want to note that.
Yeah, we ain't reading Oedipus.
Yeah, Aerith looked on. Eric looked on as Tifa snuggled close to Cloud and returned to the surface. Snuggled close to Cloud. That is not a friendship thing to be describing, okay? And returned.
We're so platonic.
Yeah, right. Returned. Exactly. Returned to the surface with him. His true self regained at last. Zack narrowed his eyes as dazzled by sight. Damn it, if all the girls ever got close to you, blah, blah, blah. So he's saying that maybe things would have worked out. And then she says, as if I'd ever take a playboy like you for a lover. Get the fuck up out of here. Hey, that's uncalled for. I just happen to get along with everyone. That's your problem. I prefer someone pure and a little tactless like Cloud. The same Cloud.
So basically, she's a virgin hunter. She's hunting down his virgin.
So the same Cloud she just went back and forth with as to whether she even knew or not in this same 21 pages. And let me say, like those 21 days they knew each other, 21 pages. There's one page in this damn thing for every day that he knew Aerith, okay? And she has gone back and forth 3-4 times as to what a Cloud's real, if she knew the real Cloud. Now she prefers the Cloud in which may or may not be a real boy to Zack. I am done.
Then she's like pure, and I'm like, sorry. It's just like honestly it sounds a little bit, and I know I'm probably reading too much into it because it felt predatory.
It felt a little weird.
I was just like,
I'm so glad I'm not the only one who picked up on that.
Yeah,
Like,
it was creepy.
This sounds like super fucking creepy, dude.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, like, if the role were reversed and
It
she
makes
were a
it sound
dude,
really childlike. That's what was really creepy. It's pure and a little tactless. Like, that's childlike.
Yeah.
You're
and
a
it's just like,
child.
she's preying on him because he's a virgin.
Stranger danger! Stranger danger!
It's like, if she were a man and be like, oh, I like her because she's pure and what have you, we'd all be pretty creeped out.
Yes!
Idolizing.
I would be calling 911. I'd call the FBI. You name it.
Exactly. I'm calling people with the baseball bats. Be like, hey, this person is making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We're getting the mail bats out. We're gonna go find wherever you stashed that windowless van of yours, and we're gonna wail on your
All right, so Monk, you make your point that you wanted to make about the thing. I'm done with everything I wanted to say. We're gonna start closing this out, but you go ahead and make the points you wanted to make about the live stream. Y'all chime in with any of your last points, and then I think we'll call it a night.
All right. Well, so to wrap up my final thoughts on this whole novel and this ending part specifically, is that once again we see Cloud losing something that he does in the OG. And see, like I said before, oftentimes when I'm kind of showcasing how this novella, whatever the hell you want to call it, is not canon, I'll say, oh well, Crisis Core contradicts everything. But not just Crisis Core, the OG itself, and we've showcased that multiple times throughout this discussion about how this does not work even within the OG. And one major part is the live stream thing, because they have Aerith be the one to take Tifa and put her in Cloud's enclosed chart or whatever.
And that's
that is not what happens. And I know because I just played this part. When Tifa falls into the live stream, she starts calling out to Cloud. She goes, Cloud, where do you help me? And then she gets pulled into his subconscious.
Oh, I thought she called out for Aerith.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then later on during the Highwind scene, which it doesn't surprise me that some people are not familiar with that dialogue, because I'm sure they either skip over it or leave the room during this particular scene. But it is again confirmed that Cloud is the one who reaches out to Tifa when he hears her calling out to him.
Yes.
So what this novel does is it takes something away from Cloud and gives it to Aerith.
Yeah.
And that's a no-no in my book. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
let my boy have his moment.
Yeah, like we brought up previously, like they're taking a lot of the accomplishments of other characters, they're giving them to Aerith while stripping Aerith of all of her growth and accomplishments in order to make room. It's just Cloud is the one that brought Tifa in spite of him being so shattered. Tifa called to Cloud. Aerith had nothing to do with that part of the equation.
Nothing.
She had nothing to
She
do with
is not involved with the live stream scene. That is Cloud
at all.
and Tifa.
Every Ultimania says the same thing. It never mentions a thing about Aerith having anything to do with the live stream scene.
I mean, there's a
Nothing.
really good reason for that, is because if Cloud brought Tifa into his subconscious, then that means that even when he was totally out of it, she could always access him. That
Yep.
Like the
we don't
whole,
want that.
like the whole point is
That's
there's,
okay.
yeah, the whole point is there's another parallel between their reunion and their truest reunion. So their reunion at the train station, where she awakes his mind. They haven't seen each other in however long, and then they have the truest reunion, as Omega says, during that saying, yes, she's calling out to him. And what's beautiful about it, and why certain people have to ignore it,
the subset of a subset of a subset,
is because you, like, the beauty of it is that Cloud's faced with this moment where he can either let Tifa die, or he can save at least her, but probably both of them. He knows the only way to save Tifa in this situation is to bring her into his mind and allow her to help him repair it. Which means confessing his deepest, darker, his sealed up secret wish to her. He would hit his biggest fear on the planet. I mean, when you're in his subconscious, he doesn't say his biggest fear is Sephiroth. His biggest fear was losing somebody else or whatever. His biggest fear is this secret sealed up wish being revealed, which is that he's held these lifelong feelings for Tifa. His biggest fear is her rejection, and he's willing to face that just to save her. And there is nothing friendshipy about that. Nobody.
But also,
There is no
his autonomy as well. He is
explanation for
choosing
that at all.
But the thing is, another thing that one of the things that bothered me so much about Maiden is just that Cloud's autonomy is completely stripped. And then you have this moment, and they even try to gloss it over, but this is one of the most, or this is the first true exhibit of his full autonomy. He is truly in his truest self, his only choice. And this is a choice he made, not one that was forced on him or coerced onto him. No, he chose to let her in. And yet this is the only time you actually see, or the first time you truly see him choosing. And yet we have most of Maiden that's just trying to no. Trying to erase his autonomy. And it's just like, he doesn't have a romantic, I mean, yes, we can say that, yeah, there's a potential for romance. Yeah, but there's a potential for romance between me and all of you guys. There's always going to be potential.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's not potential. It drives me crazy how people take potential possibility with probability.
Exactly.
The probability is he's going to end up with the person we've seen him with for 25 years. Yeah. So, I mean,
it's not probable.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then that's one of my main hiccups with Maiden, or one of my two main hiccups, three. Then it's just like, Cloud has no voice. He has no choice in any of this. Like, his choice is completely erased. Aerith's, I mean, obviously there's the issue with Aerith's character being completely butchered and Zack's character being completely butchered, and it's just like, what? I have so many issues with this work. Sorry, Benny, but it's just like, this is garbage. And you can, and you're literally watching from start to finish. Like when you throw a ball of paper into the garbage, you're like, high arc, and then it's just sailing into the rubbish bin. That's what's happening. And it's because they're trying to erase Cloud's autonomy, so his will in the entire situation. Apparently, it doesn't matter. They're erasing all of Tifa's accomplishments because no, we gotta give it to Aerith, and it's like, no, she didn't do shit.
Yeah.
And the few and Aerith's responsibility to the planet, they erase because they want her chasing Cloud's dick, and she doesn't even know who Cloud is as a person.
Yeah, that's all this is. Like, she's not even worried about saving the planet. She's worried about saving Cloud, who happens to save the planet later because of what she did. Like,
it's riding him the whole way, and it's just like, no, somebody needs to call a fucking exorcism. Because this is not okay. This is a truly bastardized. I mean, the subset of a subset of a subset will sometimes pull up like the death of the author, and I'm like, okay, well, this Maiden is the very definition of death of the author, where everything is completely butchered for the sake of, you know what, maybe I'm going to make this my headcanon. Like, we're going to make my headcanon be fact, and I'm going to completely reduce the characters to a one-note type, completely robbing them of their growth.
Yeah.
Completely robbing them of their accomplishments.
And yeah, and this will be my last point, and then I'll let y'all give your outros and all that. So got 13 people watching just on Twitch. That's cool. So yeah, thank you to everybody who's been watching. I saw Small Bigs in there, and of course, you know, we see Wolf Girl. I don't know if I said hi to you, of course. Rolling on the Floor, World of Affection. We had a lot of people come through, so very happy about that. Last thing I'll say is, and this is my problem when it comes to this LTD debate. What you said about the autonomy of Cloud hits the nail on the head, because this has always been my issue when it comes to quote unquote evidence for what is canon. And especially when certain people say, oh, I only like Clarith because I want what Cloud wants.
And just like,
Cloud has been telling us, if you want what Cloud wants, you listen to not Genova induced. I mean, first off, that doesn't even tell you, but you certainly don't look at Dayton mechanic Cloud. You don't look at, I mean, what you look at is what Livestream scene Cloud says. Like,
because that is when it's true, it's distilled form.
Exactly. That's who you listen to. And so for all of that to be glossed over, like everything that makes him in love with Tifa happens before the game ever begins. The stuff that's happening that we're seeing in remake right now and stuff, that's icing on the cake. The man is already in love with her by the time the game starts. So if you want what Cloud wants, what you want is Cloudy. So my problem with Maiden is my problem in general. It's not that I have, we go through this caveat every time. Nobody cares what you want to ship. I don't even particularly have a problem. I used to like a lot of Clarith art and stuff. Think it's pretty. I mean, it's art. Art is art. Whatever. It doesn't bother me. But if you're talking about what is the reality of the story, this strips Cloud's autonomy away, just like there's been this huge discussion about whether Cloud and Aerith are dating in Chapter 8 and Chapter 9. If you go based off Cloud's behavior, they're clearly not. But if you go off of one sentence or one thing where she says one date and the devs refer to it as a date because she refers to it as a date, then suddenly they're dating, as if going on a date, one that Cloud never even agrees to, is the same as two people actively trying to date each other in a sense of trying to gain a relationship. Like, that's always been my issue with people who try to push that as canon. It's like, you're not paying attention to what Cloud wants. So not to go on the tangent, y'all know the LTD drives me crazy, but so that is definitely a huge problem here. It's like, you can't even trust her version of what's going on, this whole thing. Cloud's heart is shattered and all that. She just said herself in the same book she can't even reach Cloud's heart. So how the hell would she know what's going on in his heart?
Exactly. She's just assuming.
She's just assuming.
And it's just like,
and that's
not really her assuming, it's Benny assuming. And it's just like, Benny, are you even listening?
But the whole book, I'm saying the book is in her point of view as well, or that's the intention. So yeah, she's assuming that this man is heartbroken and distraught, but then she's not even paying attention at the times where it would tell her who he actually is in love with. Because if she was paying attention that whole time that President Sherman was talking, if she was actually paying attention to what was going on Earth, on Gaia, she might have noticed that Cloud was damn near confessing his feelings to Tifa before he ever became a puppet.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my last hurrah on it. I just yeah.
Trust me, I can go on a tangent as well. I'm just holding on to Final Fantasy Friday. That's legit all I'm doing.
Yeah. All right, Amy, Monk, and then I'll let Rhea close us out. Y'all go ahead and give your, last, whatever you want to say last, or just your goodbyes.
I think that the thing that bothers me most is just that it does just assassinate the characters, to be honest, and it makes Cloud look just like nobody. He's just basically an empty shell that Aerith doesn't understand, doesn't care to understand, and she just projects her own feelings onto. Tifa is a non-entity. She is just a name. Aerith is taken from someone who was a bit Marmite in OGE and becomes someone who is so hateable in this that it is unbelievable that anyone who would consider themselves a fan would ever read this and go, yeah, she's a great gal, because she is horrible. She spends so much time self-absorbed, self-centered, doesn't give a fuck about the planet, and it's just horrid. And I can't believe that there are, like you said, a subset of a subset who genuinely think this is like a bite. Because if you read this and you think this is accurate to the characters, you clearly have no idea about these characters. And to hold this up as your Bible, all you're proving is that you don't know anything about these characters.
Or don't care, and that's even scarier.
Or don't
honestly.
care.
So.
And it's like, that's basically a confession that you don't know, you don't care, you don't wish to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of what it is.
And that's not good for any story.
No, it's so awkwardly written. It completely contradicts itself. See the ending bit where she's like calling all of the people to help get the live stream working? It reminds me at the end of Dirge of Cerberus, and I could go on about that game so long about how
I will
awful
fight
it
you.
is. And where it's the end, everyone's calling his name, and it's like the power of friendship. That's totally how it feels.
Oh,
And I read it, I actually died inside reading it. Like, what is this goddamn story? Like, where are we here? Yeah, I don't feel. In some ways, I feel sorry for Benny, because I feel like this task was thrust upon him, and he didn't really want it. So he then had to write stuff, and he was like, oh, I don't really know what to do with this. But it's still terrible. It's still absolutely terrible. And I can't believe I had to read this. And I feel like my life is worse for it. I read a fan fiction, and it was called Almost Had Him. And it was so like this, except it was written much better, actually. And it made Aerith a bit worse than this, but it was basically the same. And the whole plot was that she thought she was special, and in her fairy tale she should get Cloud, because the special princess always gets the handsome guy. And then she dies, and she's unhappy about it, and then she meets Zack, and she's like, I don't want you, I want Cloud. And she spends the whole time trying to get Cloud. And as I was reading this, I was like, this is a worse version of that. It was crazy. And I'm going on a little bit about this, but yeah, it's really bad.
I'm not gonna lie though, that does sound like it would be funny as fuck.
It was really good. It was so good. And as I read it, it was like, she is horrible, but I'm also really
invested.
Yes, I'm invested in her horribleness, especially because she was so fucking bare about it. You could just sense it was just like, I hate everyone. And you kind of got that in this, that she was like, she was sort of like, I'm so happy with everything, but I'm internally seething. Yeah, I don't know why she had to meet everyone, because I didn't care. And I don't know why anyone was trying to make me care, because I just didn't. And she was like floating in a lake, and then she was like meeting people, and
it was
it was like a mixer.
Yeah,
it was like that. And
it
then you know, all the stuff that was like now is completely contradictory, but yeah, it was just something.
Yeah,
that was something, man. Thanks, Stitch. That was great. Thank you.
I had a lot of fun. Monk, you got any last words? Anything you unsaid?
Yeah, I do. So, why are you laughing? What does that mean?
Go ahead.
Okay. Let me just say this. Why do clerics like this so much? It does
that's a very important question.
That's the question.
Let me just say, because I know because of the nature of this discussion, I'm sure it will get passed around in that high clerics who will be watching this in the future. Anyway, let me just clear the record up real quick here for y'all. The reason why we don't like this fucking novel has nothing to
No, you could. Okay.
This actually aids us. The reason why we don't like this story is because we're fans of FF7, and we're fans of the other characters that are in this story that have been absolutely mangled beyond comparison. Namely Zack, namely Cloud. Cloud is a big one. Cloud and Zack are two of my favorite characters besides Tifa. And so to see Cloud just basically reduced to nothing in this novel just irritated me. He is the main character, and you turned him into more of a puppet than Sephiroth does. Like, holy crap, he is nothing in this story. He is flopping around in the wind like a reed. He has no free will of his own. He has no dialogue or anything, really. He is just there to be a plot device in this story, and it just absolutely frustrates the heck out of me what they do to Cloud in this story.
He's a
And you know, if I was a bigger Aerith fan, like even as it is, even though I'm not a big Aerith fan, I'm still irritated with what they did to her character here, because this actually makes, like we said earlier, this actually makes OG Aerith look good by comparison, and that's really bad.
As 4 people on this panel that couldn't stand OG Aerith, that is a statement. Okay.
Yeah, quote me on that one, okay? You could put that one on the back of a pizza box or something. But you heard it here first, folks. I actually am an apologist for OG Aerith after reading this. Holy crap, dude. So anyway, so that being said, but like I said before, I just don't understand. And again, this would not be such an area of contention if certain aspects of the fandom treated it like it was supposed to be treated, as a derivative work that has no bearing on the actual story, on the actual characters. There was no oversight from the official development team, clearly, because I can tell you where Nojima would say, no, you need to fix this, Benny. Go back and sit down. I will rewrite this for you. I mean, we've seen the way Nojima gets about the story. He'll make Toriyama reshoot a scene, complete with all the redirecting and everything, if something doesn't meet his specifications. And I can tell you right now, Nojima would turn Benny around and say, you know, you need to go back to the drawing board, because this is unacceptable. But clearly he didn't get any oversight from the development team, so I can't hold him accountable for that. Like from what I can tell from his little statement that we read at the beginning of this, he clearly had this project thrust upon him. He didn't even seem like he was all that excited. It seemed like he dreaded it, and you can kind of tell by the quality of his writing that this was a project that was thrust upon him, like probably against his will in a certain way.
It was not a labor of love.
It was not a labor of love, and you can tell his heart wasn't really in it.
Yeah, I mean, his heart seemed to be in it like Don Cornelius women's hearts.
Yeah, and so let me just wrap up my final thoughts here before we turn this off for sure.
Yeah.
Is that, like I said before, there's just so much that contradicts what we actually know about this story. There's so much that's glossed over. There's so much that doesn't match up. Even within the same novel, there is contradiction. And honestly, it feels very anticlimactic. Like, you don't even really understand where the story is going for the most part. It just seems like you're kind of ambling around aimlessly for most of the novel. Mm-hmm. There's not really any specific focus. The only thing that you can kind of get from it is that Aerith is focused on getting in connection with Cloud again. When really, I think this story would have benefited from having a more solid focus for her. And here's the thing, she never even, the most she gets out of this is that, of course he brings up the hand reach at the very end of the story, and she uses that ability, her reaching out to help Cloud reach Tifa's hand. So that was her big moment where she finally gets contact with Cloud. And that's why it feels so anticlimactic, because if her end goal and what she had been working towards the whole time was saving the planet, then it would have felt better. The ending would have felt more impactful once we got to that part in the story. But that was hardly the focus. And so when you finally get to that part of the story, it's just like, oh, so we're back to this again, after we've been basically ignoring it for the past several paragraphs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just the structure of the story is not good. The characters are completely out of character.
To say the
important things are glossed over in favor of expanding upon 6 or 7 pages worth of Aerith sinking to the bottom of the lake, and this long-ass monologue nobody cares about from President Shinra, when you could have spent that time instead focusing on other characters. And let me say this too. People who would have, argue with me on this would say, oh, well, this story is supposed to be from Aerith's point of view. That's why these other characters aren't expanded upon that much. But we know that's kind of BS because you have something to compare it to. Let's compare it, for instance, to On the Way to a Smile. Each and every one of those sections in that book is told from a character's point of view. So you have Case of Tifa, where it focuses on Tifa. You have Case of Denzel, where it focuses on Denzel. You have Case of Barrett, where it focuses on Barrett. And each and every one of those manages to tell the story from their point of view and still do justice to the other characters in that story. Nobody feels out of character. Everyone feels like how they're supposed to feel, and the things that are important should be focused on are what are important and are what are focused on. So that's like your best comparison. Someone who actually knows these characters because they are his creation, Nojima, and some other guy who was forced on this project who was clearly not that invested in it. So that's my little rant here, and yeah, my opinion on this is what it's always been. It hasn't improved at all. The more times I read it, the more I hate it, and the more I'm able to kind of pick it apart. But here's the thing. I am glad that I read it, because here's the thing. When you're someone like me, and someone like the rest of us in this little group here, we have to know our stuff, because we're active in this fandom, and there are people in this fandom who will treat this like it's a legitimate part of the compilation. They will treat it like it legitimately has an impact on the story when it doesn't. And so we kind of need to know our stuff if we're going to be engaging in conversation on this. So like I said, I am glad that I read this, so that way I actually know what I'm talking about. And here's the thing. It's so funny because I've gotten into arguments with people who treat this book like it's canon, and it seems like I know more about this novel than even they do, which is
absolutely. If they knew what was in these 21 pages, there is no way in hell they would be running around.
When was the last time you guys actually read this thing from start to finish? You would know this novel does not do you or your ship any favors. So again, I don't know why you're out here fighting for your life to acknowledge this as part of the canon, part of it. It don't do you guys favors.
Cloud's infantilized. Aerith is a complete selfish bitch the entire I mean, this is and then those creepy lines about him at the end. Yeah, it's just a mess for Clarith. For the life of me, I was like, there must be something here. And as I kept going through each page, I was like, there must be something I'm missing. I mean, there must be. I've missed something, because the way they talk about this, it's gotta be. Now, if they want to tell me that Maiden is canon, I'm be like, okay. Tell me which part. Tell which part you love it.
Exactly. And here's the thing. It's like you said. Tell me which part of this is canon. Is part canon where Aerith is jealous? Is mentioning that she's jealous of Tifa, and she's watching Cloud and Tifa embrace each other and close to the surface session. She helped him gain his true self. Is that what's canon, Claire? Come on. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Anyway, I gotta go myself now. So, but yeah. And then we'll let Rhea close us out here.
All right. Well, one of the things that really stands out to me a lot with regards to Maiden and how it is essentially misquoted, because let's call it what it is. Not everyone has taken the time to read it. It is a misquoted work that is not canon. It has already been established as not being part of the canon compilation, and thankfully so, because it's taking a character that, yes, while polarized in the OG incarnation, she is a beloved character. Aerith, we can all appreciate Aerith as what she is, as who she is. Yes, she has flaws. Yes, she has selfishness in her. But it's just, when you look into this work, it is a true bastardization, and it is hard to take it seriously, because unfortunately, as Clody fans, we are held to a higher standard where we cannot engage because, feeding the trolls, or we can't, or we have to accept people making all of these grand bastardizations. And it's just like, no, we're held to the standard where we have to know everything. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, what do you know? What do you know?
Hey, we lost Amy.
So, I'm up here.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that happy note, sorry, I messed up the cameras. But yeah. I'll turn off the camera. But anyway, yeah. So I completely agree with you. Go ahead and finish your thought, though. I'm just going to turn off the camera. So
like,
oh, there we go. Okay, she's back.
People use this work as proof of something, but it's just like, no, it's not. It is proof that you don't know what you're talking about. It's proof that people that, and I use you in the sense that of the subset of a subset of a subset, because there are clerics that look at this and actually did take the time and be like, yeah, this isn't any favors. This is destroying a character that I love. Mm-hmm. Even if you just love Cloud, even if you just love Aerith, even if you just love Zack, no matter how you look at it, it is a bastardization, and it makes it hard to take people seriously that use it, because it's just it's rubbish. Yeah. Like, what? How can you claim to love Aerith and everything that she's lost her life for? Because yes, we can separate the fact that she made sacrifices versus her being murdered. Those are two separate points, but she did make a sacrifice for this planet. Mm-hmm. So instead of her actually living up to, or
we get it. We get it. Yeah, no pun intended.
In life. Yeah, no pun intended. Be glad I didn't wear the pink shirt. It's still very much she does become this deified, larger than life character, and she's being reduced to this trivial, self-important, one-note character. And it's just like, how can you claim to love a character and have this be your source material as to why she's so beloved? She is literally destroyed.
It is beyond
literally me. Reading this was like watching Aerith get murdered again.
Really. And I'm gonna tell you something. That look, this is, I'm telling you, the DDC, when the newer clerics in the fandom realize, like, they see all this evidence, because they're not gonna be able to hide all this crisis core evidence from them forever. It's gonna be flooding everywhere, and they eventually get they're seeing all these translations for themselves, because the DDC gets louder and louder the closer we get to the end of this conclusion of this whole nightmare of an LTD war. But the clerics are also seeing all this information now. They're reading, that's the Maiden that I've heard about, and then they read through this and like, this is not what I thought it'd be.
Exactly. And it turns
Monk,
into a monster.
Monk, you're making a noise back there. I don't know what's going on.
Somebody's breathing heavy into the phone. Check, the killer's in the house.
Monk. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you're cool. So just to wrap it up. They're like, I encourage, don't believe us. That's why we started the book. Don't believe us. Read it yourself. It's all out here if you want it. All we're doing, because I can guarantee, well, like Monk said, when the clerics get their hands on this and all, they'll snip out little things. When we're talking about Aerith, Maiden Aerith, they'll claim we were talking about all of Aerith and blah blah blah. They'll try all that. I encourage them, watch this whole stream if you want to, and read these materials. They're out there for anybody to get. Okay, and then because you come up with your own conclusions. Do not believe these cohorts of liars. They lie constantly. I feel lied to. After reading this, after the way they go on about Maiden, I feel lied to about this.
I thought it was like some sort of like wild cleric, like fever dream thing, and then I read it and I was like, this is not only up, but it's like there's nothing. And the thing is, even though this would be beneficial, and the thing is, even though this would be beneficial as hell for Cloudys to come out there and be like, oh yeah, this is canon, come on, bring it, it'd be beneficial as hell. I care too much about the actual story to parade this out there as real. But if you want to keep bringing it up, we can talk about it. I got no problem with that.
Let me ask you a question. Can either of you remember what the plot was?
There was a plot.
There's a plot. Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I think it's actually called The Maiden Who Aimlessly Wanders the Planet and Creeps on Some Guy. I think that should actually be his name.
Yeah,
because that's actually more like what happened.
Yeah.
Traveled? Nah. She just
Yeah,
kind
he
of
was right like a stalker. Oh my god.
wandered.
All right.
Some guy.
All right. Well, it's definitely been more than 2.5 hours, so we definitely. I don't know why I lie to myself every time. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I appreciate it, Amy. Our first time having her as a guest.
It was so fun.
Yeah, it was very fun.
Yeah,
And then
it was great having you.
Yeah, come back next time.
absolutely,
And the time
her and
after
her
that.
adorable accent is welcome back anytime. Ria, love you having you always, and Monk, of course. So next week we're going to be beginning on the way to a smile.
Okay.
And in our Discord, I actually want to do. We've got a couple movies: Last Order, Advent Children, Complete, and Case of Denzel. Mm-hmm. So just look out for. I'll be adding if and when we decide to run those movies somewhere concurrently with the books, because that'd be nice to see those, like as we're going through it canonically or chronologically, I should say. Yeah. That'd be cool to rewatch the movies as well, to get the broader context. So, but yes, we'll be reading Case of Denzel. We'll be reading all the way till Livestream White, which is the last page after Case of Tifa. That's what I'm trying to say. So whatever that is, up until Livestream White is what we'll be reading. Livestream. Oh my God. White. Good Lord. Oh my God. Okay, it's time to go. I can't even get words out now. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you to everybody. I had a great conversation with y'all, and we will see y'all later.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Stygian Stilettos Gamer, and I am # out of here, honey.